Slam your body down and wind it all around, listeners, as for the foreseeable future, you'll be locked into a Bergkamp Wonderland, the award-winning Arsenal podcast, which has been known at times to quite literally chew the fat. Isn't that right, fellas? This seemingly public schoolboy special is brought to you tonight by my all-time favourite podder. It's me, Andrew, but you might know me off Twitter as @PR_who are you? And if you're thinking, what the hell does that mean? Don't worry, because I don't know either. Unfortunately, our head honcho Gim can't be with us tonight, as he's having to wave goodbye to the litter of puppies he's fathered for the last 10 weeks, which I think you'll agree with me is pretty sad times. So if you're listening, Gim, this one's for you, and it goes out to Katie too. Speaking of a devious Welshman who's had his fair share of dogs in and out of his house in the last few weeks, also busy is our very own Jason Davis, who's on a dinner date with his mum tonight. Woof. But fear not, however, listeners, as we have a star-studded dynasty of a lineup for you tonight. And they've even promised to send out a topless team selfie after we're done. First up, let me introduce our producer, our all-round good guy, and he's the Big Show lookalike. It's Danny, the GFP. How are you, Danny, you cheeky monkey?
I'm impressed that you've gone to this much bother. Well done. See, Gimli, this is the kind of level you need to reach, you lazy ginger goblin.
How are you doing, Danny?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm a little bit tremulous, truth be told. It's my first time as the host of the podcast, so I'm trying really hard not to say fuck or bugger, but it's going well so far.
And don't say cunt whatever you do.
No, I definitely won't say that word. Brilliant. So, moving on, my first guest tonight is famed for being the podcast's mid-winter signing, and he's been a tremendous addition. He's the self-styled devil's advocate and all-round haggis connoisseur. You might know him as Goonaholic, but I prefer just to call him Dave. How you doing, Dave?
Oh, I'm brilliant. Thank you very much. What an introduction. There's the rest of us playing it off the cuff, and you've got it scripted down to the last second, haven't you?
This isn't scripted. This is off the cuff, trust me.
That's great stuff, Andrew. Thanks very much.
Thanks for coming on. My second guest tonight is said to be the first answer when you Google what women want. He's our Johnny Depp lookalike and our top football manager. It's Kris. How you doing, Mr. Carpenter?
I'm good, mate. I think what you meant to say was what women want out of their house, out of their mind, out of everything. But I'm very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. And we're looking forward to a short update on the Pirates on from you shortly.
Rumour has it, mate. Rumour has it.
Can't wait. Now, my final guest tonight is quite the coup. This white-haired and wiry, short and fiery North London lad has been known to cause controversy with his outbursts. He's outspoken, but he believes he's just simply misunderstood in his campaign to take down the fat cats and get a better deal for his people. No, it's not Jeremy Corbyn. It's long-time friend of the pod, Mark King. How you doing, Mark?
You're such a cunt.
What's changed since I saw you on Saturday?
No, lot, mate. No, I'm fine. Thank you very much.
No, thank you all for joining. I really appreciate that. I'm sure the listeners do too. So to start off, we're going to go over to producer Danny for all the scores across the board and for the weekly loan watch.
Oh dear, I've got all this written down, but it won't be half as entertaining as that stuff you just done. Genius, well done. Right, Damien Martinez, Wolverhampton Wanderers, they lost 2-1 at home to Preston, and he was an unused sub, so it's good to see him back on the bench. And if they continue on this losing streak, Ikeme will be out on his arse, and Martinez will be back in like he was before he got injured. They're currently 12th in the Championship. Ashley Maitland-Niles,
Conservative.
They could hear Gimli shouting Conservative then, thank you very much. Ipswich are currently 8th. They lost 2-1 away at Bristol City, which is a bit of a shocker because Bristol City are a bit shitty and Ipswich are pretty good. And Mick McCarthy's going to kill someone for that result. He started on the right-hand side of a central midfield three. The middle one of the three was more defensive, and he played for 53 minutes before coming off. Chupa Chupa Apcom and Isaac Hayden, Hull are currently first. Wouldn't that be brilliant if two young Gooners get championship-winning medals, which they probably will do, hopefully. Come on, the Hull. Apart from this Sunday, whichever day it is. They drew 0-0 at home to Brighton. Brighton are on a bit of a push at the moment, decent team. Chupa Chupa came on for the last 18 minutes for Snodgrass, who I swear is the bloke out of Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, but never mind. He was playing in the Ox-Campbell position on the right-hand side. Isaac came on in the 61st minute and played in the central midfield role. Hull are going good, and I don't know if those two are going to be allowed to play against us on Sunday. I hope they're not. John Terrell, the future England and or Spain legend, but for Birmingham City, who are currently 7th, started in the Erzul hole, 0-0 away at Rotherham, and he played 82 minutes and then came off. Wellington Silva, the man who can't score, the man who makes Yaya Snogo look like he's full of goals, has actually scored a few goals lately, and he got an assist as playing in the Sanchez role of a kind of behind the main striker 3, and they lost 3-2 away at Brighton and got an assist and came off after 66 minutes. How do they play Brighton and Hull play Brighton? Maybe they're catching up with games. Maybe that's what it is. Because some teams played at the weekend, and then some played midweek, but I didn't go and check who did what. Yaya Sanogo's playing for Charlton, 23rd position, looking in trouble. He came on after 73 minutes, and it stayed 0-0. Draw with Cardiff. Unbelievable. He's played a game and hasn't scored a goal. Whoever thought that day would ever come? Glenn Kamara, Southend United, currently 7th in League One. He didn't play on Saturday, and he didn't play 2 days ago on Tuesday, which they lost 1-0 and 2-0. He wasn't even in the squad. So whether he's gone back home to Arsenal or not, I'd have no idea. Another young Arsenal player, Gideon Zelalem.
No.
Oh, the Offspring joined in. Lovely. Rangers are currently 1st in the Championship, which is the 2nd tier of Scottish football. He was an unused sub in the 1-1 away draw at Alloa at I think it was the weekend. And then this week he was an unused sub in the 2-1 away win at Kilmarnock in the Cup. So they're through to the next round. He didn't play either. A little bit worried when he doesn't play, because I wanted him to play every single game. Off to Italy, Wojciech Szczesny, who I always think I say that wrong, playing for Roma, currently 4th in Serie A. Played in Serie A and they won 3-1 away at Carpi. And then he started, I think it may have been last night or the night before. Was it, Chris? Which day was it? Tuesday or Wednesday?
Last night.
Hey,
Against Real Madrid.
That'd be Wednesday in modern money.
Oh, sorry. Yes. No, yeah, it was Wednesday. Yes, sorry.
I wish I'd have asked you now. And they lost 2-0 at home to Real Madrid, which is not too bad because in Real Madrid are the greatest team in the world, unless you're a Barcelona fan. And Zinedine Zidane is the greatest manager in the world, apparently. And off to France, I forgot. Oh, dear. Don't know why Chris let me get away with this. I've not been doing the loan watch for Matthew Debuchy.
Terrible.
I know. He's at Bordeaux, who are currently 9th in Ligue 1, or as we call it, League 1. He started in the 4-2 away win at, I know Chris is listening to see if I get this right, Gwynkamp.
Terrible. Gang on.
Same thing. He played at the right back position. What shirt number does he wear, Chris?
23? I'll check that.
24. You are a loser. Get out. So that's his 3rd league game for them. They lost the other 2, 4-1 and 3-0. How's he doing, Chris, in one word or less?
Very, very well, actually. Looks comfortable.
Okay, that's one sentence. Never mind. The under-21s haven't played in a while. The under-18s had played and lost 3-1 at Chelsea at the weekend. Eddie Nikita scored in the 78th minute. Apparently a ding-dong of a game, because Chelsea scored in the 77th. We scored in the... I put here in the 78th. I think it might have been the 87th. My fat fingers have got it. Yeah, it was. It was the 87th minute. My fat fingers got the 7 and the 8 the wrong way round. Pity me. So they scored 77. Then they scored 86. We scored 87. They scored 88. Whoa, ding dong, woof. So we lost. On Monday, we drew 2-2 away at Coventry in the FA Youth Cup, and we won 7-6 on penalties. Tyrell Robinson and Doniel Mallon. Make sure you people write that name down, underline it, do it in italic and bold, because in the next couple of seasons you watch that boy go. Ajax youth product, brilliant. They scored our goals. And Hugo Keto, Keto, I think he's Finnish. He was superb in goal with 3 superb penalty saves. We are now 6th in the league. Forget about that, we're doing shit. But through to the quarterfinals of the FA Youth Cup, which is really, really good. Next under-18 game is going to be away at N17. Boo. There you go. Only fucked up half of that. Better than usual. Mr. Fife. Oh, no, not Mr. Fife, is it? We've got something new, which we haven't had all year. Chris, give us some Pirates info.
Arr,
says he.
Arr, indeed. Well, it's the first time we played since the 2nd week of November. Because it's been quite wet down here in the West Country, I tell thee. Bloody soaking.
Don't milk it.
But we got a game on. I wasn't there. I left my assistant manager in charge.
I am fucking shocked at that. And who owns the club? I'm going to complain.
That'll be me.
Right.
You can address it by pigeon. But
yep.
I left my assistant manager Dave and head coach Steve in charge. And I clearly wasn't needed because we won. We won again. We won 4-3 at Riverside Saints Reserves. Danny,
scored?
I know you're keen to know how young Callum's getting on.
How did Callum Knight get on? The greatest young striker in the southwest.
He notched the critical penalty from last 10 minutes, the winning goal. He now has 25 goals in 11 appearances this season. Captain Sam Brutti, Jimmy Williams, and Dan Yeoman got the other goals. I can tell you that because we've had so many games where we haven't been able to play, that the league looks a little bit skew-whiff. But I can tell you that currently in the table we are sitting in 7th place. We've played 6, won 4, drawn none, lost 2, 12 points. But the team who are top of the league have played 13 games, so we've got 7 games to catch up on. So title push is still very much on, and we're away this Sunday to, where are we playing this Sunday? I've forgotten the bloody team we're playing this Sunday. We're playing a team this... Lakeside, that's it. Lakeside Athletic, if it's on. So we'll hopefully get 2 games in 2 weeks.
And if people are new to the pod, wondering why we're going on about the not the Pittsburgh
Barbican
Pirates,
Pirates.
is it? Barbican Pirates, there you go.
Thank you.
It's because you lot sponsor them. We have a Bergkamp Wonderland as the sponsor on, is it the front of the shirt?
Yep.
Dead centre?
Yep.
With pride?
Yep, and the
Tip
training
top.
wear, and the manager, who's a very handsome devil. He wears
Is he?
it all over his training gear as
I thought
well.
you were a manager.
Move on.
Okay, so that's why. And so at the beginning of next season, or before next season, Kris will be asking for money, so you lot go and give him all your money, because they're going to win the FA Cup.
Happy days.
Do you want this back, Mr. Fife?
I do. But I'm
Go
going
on
to hand it straight over to Kris actually soon. So bringing us into our first topic of conversation is, of course, the Arsenal-Leicester game. And Mr. Carpenter has kindly going to give us his match report.
I will do my very best, Mr. Fife. I can't match your skills, unfortunately, but I will do my best to go over it. It was delightful. Let's be honest. It didn't start delightfully. Let's be perfectly frank. The first half was it was a little bit bitty, a little bit scrappy. I didn't think we were as bad as certain areas of social media would have you believe. I thought our pressing game was pretty good. We started on the front foot. Oxlade-Chamberlain's decision making wasn't the best, but we got in a couple of times earlier on, and I thought, hey, the real Arsenal turned up here. And then we went into a little bit of a lull where it just appeared that we couldn't seem to get the passes right. The final ball was lacking, and slowly but surely Leicester started to grind their way into the game, and grind being the operative phrase. They were quite foully on the day. More on that in a second, but then obviously the critical moment of the first half comes really with the penalty incident, which for me is a dive. It is cheating. There's no two ways about it. I think Vardy obviously cuts inside. He sees an opportunity to run into Monreal, who's, granted, his positioning is slightly wrong, his body shape's slightly wrong, but he can't vaporise into thin air, and Vardy obviously instigates the contact, goes to ground and puts away the penalty with ease. And at that stage, at half-time, obviously you would have been there, Andrew, and Mark would have been there. The ground seemed to be a bit edgy. It seemed to be a bit kind of, are we going to shit the bed again? And for long periods of the second half, it did appear that we were going to. And Leicester rather shot themselves in the foot with the sending off for Danny Simpson. Yes, it was harsh, 2 bookable offences, but as the old saying goes, if you don't commit the fouls when you're on the booking, you're not going to get sent off, and he obviously did. I wonder whether Martin Atkinson might have been looking to level things up, because I think there was 4 Leicester players booked in the space of sort of 10 minutes, and the game really changed on the sending off. Leicester didn't appear to be a side that were comfortable to play with 10 men. They sat very deep, and once we got the equalising goal from Theo Walcott, who was, give the manager some credit here. He's often criticised for not making substitutions at the right time. Well, this was a slightly earlier than usual substitution, bringing on Walcott. And God bless him, he popped up with a goal, which a typical Walcott goal that we know he's capable of when he doesn't have to think. Just put his foot through it and tucked it away.
So true, so sadly true.
It really is. And then, obviously, we then proceeded to piss us around a lot, to be honest. Not nowhere near good final balls, and Alexis was snatching at chances, and we almost looked to be forcing it, and then what would you know? An 83rd minute substitute, Leicester spotted Danny Welbeck that everyone has seemed to have forgotten. Popped up, and I think the commentary, one of the stations was, the fairy tale moment, and boy was it a fairy tale moment after Zangief from Street Fighter 2 was committed the foul on Monreal for Leicester, and a beautiful ball from Mesut, who, being fair, didn't have one of his better games. I think it's fair to say he was poor on the day, I thought, but when you needed it most, when you needed that big player to step up, he delivered a pinpoint accurate ball into the box, and Danny Welbeck's header. We've got lost in the euphoria of the moment, and my God, was it a euphoric moment? But that header really was superb. I mean, just the faintest of touches to take it away from Schmeichel, who we should say made a world class save from Giroud just sort of 2 or 3 minutes earlier. So overall, just a fantastic result. I think it does a huge amount for our spirit. I think in turn it will also put a seed of doubt in Leicester's minds. And as brilliant as they've been this season, I do tend to agree with certain other podcasts and certain other pundits that I think Leicester got what they deserved on the day for being quite foully, quite niggly, and ultimately not able to live with a side that really took it to them.
Excellent stuff. Cheers, Chris. So on one of the points you made there, I want to come to it, and I want to introduce Goonaholic Dave, because I know Dave's got a little anecdote about this. But one thing I noticed, and I know Dave goes to every game, Mark does, and myself, and one thing I noticed about especially the second half was the frustration in the crowd, but specifically at the referee, and we were much more vocal than usual. And I wanted to get your sense, where Chris has obviously alluded to there, kind of the refs looked to even things out. How did you think it affected the game?
I think that's a reasonable assumption, because he would undoubtedly have found out at half time he had made a number of mistakes in the first half, particularly the one where I think it was Morgan clattered into the back of Mesut Ozil before the first goal, and he was stood directly looking at it with nothing but thin air in the line, and he didn't give a free kick there, and thus rendered the penalty argument pointless. I just can't understand. They had been rotationally fouling Alexis Sanchez up to that point. There were 2 handball shouts, one of which I thought was very, very reasonable for a penalty for us. And I think all of those things combined together, he would have had a feedback on that at half-time. And the sending off, the 2 bookings were yellow cards. 2 yellows are a sending off. But you get the feeling that on another day he might have overlooked one or other of them, and he might or might not have been looking to even it up. But it was quite interesting watching all the way through. Both benches were giving, I take it this is the anecdote you're referring to, both benches were aiming an awful lot of shoutiness at the 4th official, who was oblivious to them all, and I found out afterwards why, because he is deaf anyway, and he left his hearing aids out for that match.
Bloody hell. Maybe he saw it was Atkinson and Arsenal and he made the right choice, but he was awful on the day, wasn't he? He really was terrible.
Yeah, I thought so.
I think in the second half, especially when he let the tackle go on Ramsey after the handball he let go in the second half, we saw like a real change in the mentality of the team, and that's something I wanted to come on to you, Mark. It was on that point, I think when Theo came on, we saw a much more orchestrated attempt by the team to get into Atkinson's face. And it was kind of something I was tweeting about at the start of the game, and I saw this tactical fouling. I was tweeting that I think we really need to get into the referee's face, and eventually we saw Ramsey, Sanchez, Giroud, Theo. They were all over him. And I mean, is this something you think we should be doing more often, or how do you think that affected our performance?
Well, to be honest, I didn't really notice it, to be fair. It's one of those things, isn't it? I mean, if other teams, it's a bit like the Vardy penalty. You know, we're all like going to be sanctimonious about it and suggest that it's such a cheat. But if we get one later in the season, I'm not sure there'll be that many people complaining. Although I'm sure some will probably try and still hold their hands up and be a bit thing about it. But I mean, you know, you've got to try and do what you can within the game. I've always said that we're far too nice a team, and we need to try and master some of the dark arts a bit more, and one of them is trying to put some pressure on the referee if you can do it without losing your heads. So if they did it, like I said, I didn't really notice it. But if they did it and you felt that it was a catalyst rather than it being them down to 10 men, then fair enough.
And what was your general view of the game? Because I know when we met at half time and we were 1-0 down, you kind of alluded that you felt that Arsenal had pulled more punches and were head on points. So how did you feel we played?
Yeah, I thought we were really unlucky to be 1 down. You could see what their game plan was, and it was the free kick that Dave said about that we should have had on Ozil, and then what the fuck Koscielny thought he was doing, I don't know. Can't figure that out. And then, Monreal's made a bad attempt at a challenge in the box, and Vardy's done what I'd want our centre forwards to do, and that's play the percentages and try and get a penalty if he can. So I thought we were really unlucky to be one down. I must admit, when we come out for the start of the second half and see that Chambers is coming on and Koscielny's not out on the pitch, I thought this is going to be really tough to get back into this against a team that plays the way Leicester play, with the pace that they've got to pick you off on the counter. This is going to be a bit tough, and I think it was the going down to 10 men that really sort of turned the game in our favour then, because if we'd have been relying on some of our finishing, I think we'd have still been waiting.
I think that's the point you make there on Chambers. I think I'm going to have to hold my hands up on this one, as men of this parish will know that I've been quite vocal in my criticism of him at times and his lack of development. But when he came on, I thought, he was outstanding. He didn't make a single mistake, and I think he even looked like peak Cannavaro. And I want to ask, Kris, what did you think of Chambers' performance? And do you think we're going to see more of him in recent months? Is he going to play that centre back role? How do you see it going?
I do think he's improved massively, mate. I mean, I know, as you rightly say, hold your hands up. I know you've not been a big fan, and you probably get to see a little bit more being at more games than I in the flesh. And I think he strikes me as a player that is technically very, very good, and almost using him as a utility player, I think, has almost affected his growth as a footballer. Obviously, starting at right back, moving to centre back, playing the holding midfield role. And I'm pretty sure that the manager will hold his hands up to a degree and say that hasn't helped his development. And some players do find that the more positions they play, the better their development is. But I think that's more the case of an Henry type of player, like a wide forward. You can play wide and move into the middle. It's less of a transition. But when you are a right back or a centre back or a holding midfielder, it's better to know one of those positions and stick to it. So I don't think that's helped his game. But when he's come in, he's looked confident. The thing I really like about him is he seems to learn, or seems to have learned from mistakes. His positioning was much better. He was composed on Sunday when he came in, and make no mistake about it, when you're a substitute, and I would know as a defender, when you're on the bench as a substitute, the last thing you're thinking is I'm gonna come on here. You like the reserve goalkeeper are sitting there thinking, well, unless there's an injury, I'm not going to play. And it's very easy to get into that sort of mindset. And I thought from the minute he came on, he was very switched on, very ready, and his performance was good. And I wouldn't have any concerns about him playing in future games. We know he's been skinned when he's at right back, but at centre half and in the performance, I think it was Bournemouth when he played at holding midfield, he looks the part, and I'm all for giving kids like this an opportunity if they take it, and so far he seems to have taken it.
I think it's fair to say as well, the last 10 minutes after we'd brought on Danny Welbeck, you looked at us, our formation had changed to a 2-4-4. So there was just Chambers and Per Mertesacker sitting and holding, and in fact they didn't even stay there. Obviously set pieces, Per Mertesacker went forward, but in open play Callum Chambers made one remarkable little jinking run in their box where he sort of left about 4 or 5 people more or less on their arse. So I was very impressed with him, and particularly under the circumstances.
Cool. Have you got anything to add there, Mark? I know you're back from your piss.
No, Chambers come on. He was very solid. In fact, out of the 2, it was Mertesacker that gave up the one chance with some poor play. But Chambers did all right. Yeah, and that run that Dave alluded to was very John Stones-esque.
Yeah, there was one point actually around me. I think it was 1-1 with a couple of minutes to go, and Chambers was under pressure down in one of our corners, and he put it out for a throw. And people around me started going crazy at him, and I saw a couple of people on Twitter have lambasted him. But I thought he actually made the right decision there, because it was the only risk-free option he could have taken, and there was no point, trying to put us under pressure with seconds to go, and potentially lose the game to Leicester. So I will defend Chambers. I thought he played a blinder on the weekend, and I hope he continues to prove me wrong and make me look the idiot that I am. Speaking of a player who comes under criticism, I've actually had a question for you, Daniel, lined up about Olivier Giroud, our very own heartthrob. Funnily enough, one of the long-time listeners, One Piece, he's called, as is Guna, sent us in his listeners' questions a question about why do we on the pod always slag off Giroud and Theo and never give too much criticism to the likes of Alexis and Ozil. And so I asked him to be specific about who he thought it is who is the most critical of Giroud. And he said, whilst he wouldn't want to insult the pod producer, he feels you're the one who's critical of Giroud. And my question for you, Danny, was, whilst he was given a 6 out of 10 by times, I thought Giroud was excellent again. And I wanted to know what your thoughts were on him. I think, is he now becoming our most consistent big game player? Or how do you think he's been for us?
Well, first of all, I've got to explain my anger with the French lamppost at times. Partly, I think I'm going to keep on being mean about him, because when I'm mean about him, he plays well. But he's had 3 patches this season. He's had the patch where he come back and he was scoring like 8 goals in 10 games. Absolutely brilliant. Then he went through the patch where he did nothing, and now he's been through the patch recently where he's not scoring goals, but he has got... Look at the headers down for the Ozil goal last week, and the goal against Leicester. 2 superbly cushioned, wonderful bits of play for him. I get annoyed because he's not selfish enough. He has got some of the best players in the world playing behind him and to the side of him, with Sanchez and Ozil and with Ramsey supporting him, but he's not selfish enough. Now, you think if you've got any other player to play in that position, they would do nothing all season, because I noticed at one point he was covering at right back, then he's there for corners, defending the corners, then he's holding in the midfielders as maybe Sanchez will make a run, then he'll go over and cover to the left-hand side. He'll occasionally swap places with Ozil as Ozil's doing stuff, and it annoys me that Wenger expects so much from him, which is one of the reasons why I don't think we've got another alleged world-class striker in, because no striker is ever going to go, oh, certainly, I'm going to give up my entire career to try. Remember when Arsenal signed Ian Wright? Alan Smith's career went to pieces because all Alan Smith's job was make Ian Wright look good, give Ian Wright the balls, and that's what Giroud does a lot of the time. And as he's not as good as some of the other players that maybe do that job, that's why he isn't scoring all the goals, because he can't score all the goals and get all the assists. So if he's scoring goals, I'm happy. If he's getting assists, I'm happy. But it's the bit in the middle where he has a run of 4 or 5 games doing nothing. And I've said many times that the thing that you need to do is make him angry. Now, you look at the beginning of the season when Theo was playing and Giroud was a sub, he was angry. And when he came on, he played his arse off, he scored goals and he got his place back. Then Walcott got injured, and then Giroud had no one competing with him for that slot, so he gets lazy and he doesn't really do much. And that was the bout in between the goal scoring and the assists. That's when I get annoyed with him, because he's got more than enough skills to be scoring goals and getting assists, but he should be doing one or the other, not going through a patch of 5 or 6 games where he's not doing either. And he needs to be a lot less he needs to be more selfish, is what I'm trying to say. That he needs to stop trying to line everyone else up for and be a little bit more confident. It's like when Kris was saying with Theo. Theo plays well when he doesn't think. I think Giroud would play better when he's not being so unselfish and trying to help everybody else, because Wenger asks too much of him. How many other strikers in the top clubs in the world do as much hard work outside of trying to score goals than he does? And I think that can be his downfall. He should be, if he played up front and played like Ian Wright did, where all Ian Wright wanted to do was get shots on goal and score goals, if he did that and nothing else, then I think he'd probably maybe 25, 30 goals a season, but he doesn't. Wenger wants him to do so much hard work, which is why we can never replace him. But I'm always going to be mean about him, because I think in the world of karma, if I'm mean about him, he somehow finds out and he plays well to prove me wrong. How deluded is that?
It sounds like a warped relationship with a bird. But I'm going to mix up the questions there. I think there was a good point you made there about another striker. Something for you, Dave. So bringing on that guy, Danny Welbeck. I want to get your opinion. How significant that goal was, and how you would rank that win in the context of the recent years for Arsenal. And do you think that it kind of vindicates in a way Wenger's decision not to buy a striker in the last 2 windows?
No. That's a simple first answer. No, it doesn't. We had money available. We had a need before Welbeck returned, while Theo was out, where we wanted someone else. So that second question, I will only get one answer from me. In terms of how significant was that moment on Sunday, I think you could sense that in the people, not only in the ground, although I can tell you in the ground it was party time, but also I came back afterwards and looked back at what happened on social media sites, and I looked through the comments on my website, and people just went absolutely off the head about it, because it's put us right back in contention, and we're getting near to the business end of the season, and for us to win another big game like that, I think the difference between 1-1 and winning 2-1 is possibly significant in the message it sends out to others and in the belief it instills into the boys in the camp. I know we're going to come to a stage in the show later where my view of how significant of that moment will become more clear. But yeah, that was just wonderful moment. Everyone, the usual cuddling of the neighbours. Sorry about that, Jackster, if you're listening, but I'll promise to marry him.
Yeah, I think I read actually somewhere that it was the first time we've come back from being in a losing position in the first half to win the game in 5 or 6 years, maybe. So it just shows you, the jubilation at the end was incredible. And there was people, coming up and speaking to me, and people shaking hands and hugging people, who you would never usually speak to in the ground.
But not just that, the number of people that stayed behind while they did that little lap of honour that they do every game now. But yeah, barely nobody. There were obviously a handful of the usual suspects who left about 5 minutes before the end. Why on earth would you do that at Sunday lunchtime? When are you going to have a last train to wear at 2:00 in the afternoon? It defeats me. But the vast majority stayed, and the atmosphere was fantastic on the way out.
I read in the WhatsApp group, actually, Raj said with about 4 minutes to go or 5 minutes to go, a father tried to get his 4 sons out of the ground, and they all looked, pretty upset, which is amazing, because where Raj sits, it's probably about $4,000 a ticket.
Doesn't he sit next to Wenger?
Pretty much. No, he sits next to the directors, Raj. So.
Is anyone else concerned about how much? Thank you, dear. About how much we attacked down the left-hand side and how little action Bellerin and the Ox got down the right-hand side? Because it seemed to me that everything was going down the left-hand side, and I couldn't see any reason for that. Or did I imagine it?
Probably because Mahrez was subbed off. No.
I mean, the whole game. I just thought Monreal was absolutely superb, and that's why he got an up to a 7-5, and Bellerin got a 6-6. I thought Bellerin was... It's usually the other way around, isn't it? It's usually Bellerin the one who does the marauding forward, and Monreal who does the staying back, especially when Sanchez and Monreal are playing on the same side. But I did think that the Ox and Bellerin, I thought they're starting to get a thing going together. I suppose it's because they've grown up together at the club, and it's good to see them two having a bit of a thing together on the right-hand side. But I do feel a bit sorry for Campbell. I don't think Campbell's really done anything wrong, has he? He's been there when we were down to no players on the right hand side, and Campbell's worked his arse off, and now he seems to be out in the cold, which is I find a little bit weird.
I don't think he's out in the cold. I think it's just a case of he played a lot of football in a very short space of time, having literally played none for us, for forever in his career. So no, I don't think he's out in the cold. I think he'll still get plenty of action. I think the manager's just conscious that Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has been in a bit of a fudge of form. He's been given the chance, and he's been put into the side, and there's been just some flashes in the last 2 games that not those sort of flashes, Danny.
I'll just laugh at him. I thought I was muted. Sean just got me a packet of biscuits.
It's you. Is it? Oh, brilliant.
I just looked at it and went, "Oh fuck, I'm not muted. Sorry, people."
Yeah, thanks. Typical.
They're go ones. They're less calories.
Anyway, to pick up on that point as well, we got to remember Campbell didn't have a great game against Southampton, and the Ox has had a couple of games recently where he got an assist, was it, against Burnley, and then he scored the goal last week. Where were we? Bournemouth.
Yep.
So I think the assist and the goal, they're kind of bringing him back, and they want to give him another game to see if he'd come back to the Ox that we know he can be. So I thought the decision was a fair one. Whether he retains his place for this week will be interesting to see.
Right. Well, it's all been pretty doom and gloom so far. So I want to come over to the famous AKB Mark, and I want to get what your opinion was on Arsene Wenger and the substitutions. I know, he's been criticised on this podcast sometimes, especially after the draw against Liverpool when we brought on Gibbs, and it felt like we'd unnecessarily pinned ourselves back. But what was your take on the subs on the weekend? Was it a stroke of good fortune by Wenger, or were we lucky because they simply went down to 10 men? What's your view?
The combination of things. Obviously, the first one he didn't have any choice. He had to put Chambers on when Koscielny is injured, and then it was obvious that Leicester's plan was just to stick Vardy up front, and he felt that it didn't really require Coquelin to be there, so he could take him off and put on another attacker, and obviously that was generally going to be Walcott. Good decision, I felt, and somewhat vindicated by the fact that Giroud battles really well to get a very good knockdown to Walcott, and as the lads have said, give Theo little time to think, and he'll just hit the ball, and he put that away well. And then Welbeck, again, I think that was the right option to take when you're looking at so late in the game. Welbeck can definitely do with those minutes, and he's he's the closest thing we've got to another striker after Giroud and probably Theo. So I thought that was a good decision. I kind of thought at the time I'd rather have seen Alexis go off than the Ox, but it didn't really matter. I think Alexis, he was snatching at chances, and you can always tell when his confidence is down. His body language just betrays him every time. And I just I couldn't quite figure out the Ozil dropping deeper into midfield bit. But at the end of the day, he brings two subs on and they each score a goal. So you have to say that that will be pointed to all day long as what a brilliant manager he is.
And fair play to Danny Welbeck as well. He's given me two of the greatest moments of my Arsenal supporting career in the last few years. So good to see.
And I'll tell you, one of the interesting things is when you look at the goal he got, is when you watch them lining up for that free kick. The only Arsenal player who's really making any attempt at movement and to jostle with his marker to try and put him off is Welbeck. The rest of them all just stand there. They'll just fucking stand there in a line like they probably practice. But Welbeck is moving. He's moving around. He's trying to put the fella off. And that's a lot of the reason why when that ball comes over, and it was a great delivery, but when that ball comes over, that Welbeck's able to just get up and get the knock onto it that he needs to stick it in the corner. So, all credit to him. I like the boy. He's a good lad, and he gives us something that we haven't got in the team, to be fair.
Yeah, actually, no, I watched the replay of the goal when I got back because I didn't really see it too well on the ground. And what I would say on your point there, Phil, is I think Chambers was actually pretty close. He was literally just behind Welbeck. Yeah. And when I've watched the replay, I thought, fuck me, he's close. He's going to head that over the bar there or, take it off Welbeck's head. But, yeah, it was a brilliant piece of movement by Welbeck, especially someone who's been out for 10 months. I hope his arrival back in the team will help propel us into the business end of the season. And I kind of want to come now to Kris, who's our resident football hipster. Kris, what do you think that this loss means for Leicester? And also, what did you think the weekend showed us about Leicester, which we might not necessarily have known, or are they as good as we think? Does this show they're going to be able to keep the challenge going, or what's your thoughts?
Well, at the risk of upsetting a few people that believe in fairy tales, I mean, obviously us as Arsenal fans, we're hoping to wreck the fairy tale, and I don't doubt anything different from the panellists. But at the risk of killing the neutrals, I've personally never bought into the idea that Leicester can win this Premier League. I'm not just saying that now. I've said it all the way along. You can go back and listen to any radio show we've done if you like to confirm that. And it's not so much because they're not talented or have the players or anything like that. I just think experience at this stage of the season goes a massive way, and I feel that they've ridden the crest of a wave. They've been impressive, but now is when it really starts, and that's not just for Leicester, that's the same for us, but I do think we've got a bit more about us. They went to Manchester City and they were hugely impressive, but lost in all that is how bad Manchester City were on the day, and I think that has slightly gone under the radar, and I just think that Leicester now they're gonna play games where they're expected to win, which is a whole different sort of pressure. Any team could come to the Emirates, to Old Trafford, to Stamford Bridge, to that shithole up the lane. Anyone can go into those clubs and not be expected to get a result and get a result. And to Leicester's great credit, they've done that time and time again this season, but now is when it really counts. And I just wonder if the legs will go, if the confidence will take a wobble. The psychological edge on sport, Don will tell you more than I will, but psychology of sport is huge. The human mind does very, very interesting things to somebody when they're under pressure. And that's pressure that Leicester haven't felt before, and even their manager, even in his days, if you look at his days at Monaco, especially Monaco, but I think that even when he was managing in Italy, he came very close, and indeed with Chelsea, to winning something and didn't quite get over the line. And there was just a sign in his press conference, I think it's the other day, that maybe, just maybe, that the mask is slipping. And, take nothing away from them. It's been fantastic if you like an underdog story, and yeah, they have impressed a lot of people, but I personally have always felt that the legs will run out. Nothing has changed my mind on that, and for them, top four is an amazing achievement, and fourth is probably where they'll end up.
I think you could smell the desperation from Leicester when they brought on the WWE wrestler for Mahrez. He's a big old boy, isn't he?
Christ, yeah. Doesn't look like a footballer, does he?
I know, he looks well, and he clotheslines Nacho Monreal right at the end.
So silly. So silly.
He's a pisshead, apparently, that fella.
Weslowski.
Bloke in front said he's got a Polish mate who actually knows him, and they go on the piss. So yeah.
Was it on? I think it's on. Was it on Radio 5 or something? Or it might have been Arsblog, where they said that it looked like they'd just literally gone to Poland and just found a bouncer and go, "Yep, you'll do." He does look like some kind of doorman, but I mean, what a stupid foul to give away, because they come out of that game with a draw. If it's 4 points from 2 away trips to the top 2, the confidence there, and then to lose it like that.
He looks mad, but he's no Brian Kilcline, full beard, full hair, is he?
Nate
that man.
As well.
Oh, yeah. Brian Kilcline's hello.
I mean,
not in a sexual way, obviously, but I mean, as in here's my pot of gold, don't let anyone near it.
So Leicester, they've got 2 weeks off now. I think Ranieri sent them over to Dubai, or he even said he doesn't know where they've gone, but he's told them to go out, get it out of their heads, and I mean, in their minds, they can realistically turn around to each other and say, we played well. We only lost because we had 10 men. Let's not get to us. Do we think that I think their next 4 home fixtures will look relatively comfortable? Is this going to have too much of an effect? What do you think, Mark?
I think Kris was slightly harsh on them, to be perfectly honest, but I think Leicester have only got to concentrate on the league now. So, they've got, 12 games? 12 games left?
Yeah.
12 games left. And to be honest, they need that, because the style of football they play, where they do press quite a lot, and they put a lot of energy in and breaking and that. And their back four have done really, really well, but they're not the best back four. But as a unit, they're doing really well. So their running's not that bad. So I still think, unless they have a sort of complete falling apart, which, it's hard to see. They've come this far. They've played a lot of teams, and yeah, they'll be disappointed at having lost that game in the last minute. Particularly as you say, that they'll probably think they should have seen out the draw. I can't see how they're going to fall apart that much. And Ranieri's a fairly smart guy. He sent them away. He'll get them back, regroup, and go again. So I think they'll still be there or thereabouts. Whether or not where they'll finish in the top 4, we'll have to wait and see.
I was going to say, I watched his press conference after the game on TV, and I think he's a real touch of class, Ranieri. I really like him, and I've got a lot of time for him. I think, when he was in the league firsthand with Chelsea, he was known as the Tinkerman, because he always made, a ridiculous number of substitutions or changed the team around. And it really didn't help Chelsea, whereas at Leicester, I think they actually had the fewest or the smallest core of players, and you can see they're really playing for each other and for the manager. So fair play to him.
Can we just quickly, Andrew? Can we just touch on the fact that it has gone very underreported just how rough Leicester's tactics were when they were being outplayed, and I know the English media have fallen in love with them, and Mark's right. I'm being slightly harsh, maybe, but they didn't like it up them, did they? I mean, that we touched on that challenge from Drinkwater, which was horrendous, and I'm sure we'll come on to a certain pundit a little bit later, but. They even if you look at N'Golo Kante, who has been absolutely terrific this season, he does get away with quite a lot of the old tackles that someone of Vieira's size, for example, wouldn't. And what I mean by that is the sort of niggly second fouls, the little sort of foot between the legs, the nicking the ball away. And whilst he's very, very good at it, don't get me wrong, he's been exceptional. They were extremely fouly. The dark arts were there on show. Let's not forget Mahrez took a blatant dive. And I just, I just wonder if when they're playing against sides, as Mark said in the run-in, they look like fairly easy sides on paper, but they're going to be playing teams now that are not going to attack them. They're basically going to say, well, we don't want the ball, you have the ball. And Leicester are at their best when they're in transition, attacking teams that attack them. I don't think a Norwich, a West Brom, to name but two, are going to go to Leicester and go, well, we'll attack you. I think they're going to sit deep, and that's when we're going to see if Leicester can break those teams down.
You look at their run of games, I mean, they've lost a game. They might be a little bit demoralised, but they held it out to the very last minute and down to 10 men. But you look at their run of 5 games coming up. They've got Norwich at home, 3 points. West Brom at home, 3 points. Go away to Watford, could probably win that. Home to Newcastle, 3 points. Away to Palace, 3 points. Right. The only tough game they've got coming up is Southampton in the beginning of April.
Look at that relegation zone there.
You know we have a certain segment for this, you cheeky monkeys.
Oh dear, yes. I won't say any more about that. But yeah, they're running of 5 games after. I mean, I reckon I could go to Dubai, spend 10 days there, and I'd come back and I could play in the Premier League. It's that relaxing there.
You'd moan about the heat.
You would be arrested within 5 minutes in Dubai, Danny. No doubt.
and you'd moan because they didn't deliver KFC. You'd be all over the shop.
Tell you what, you don't want to see me after I've eaten KFC. Curry, as long as they cook it properly. As long as they don't use shitty chicken.
Oh, God. Move on, finally. For Christ's sake.
Unfortunately, it's back to Dan. I know you've got a point on injuries you want to bring up, Danny.
Yeah, just an update on the injuries thing. There's this website called arsenalreport.com/injury room. You go there. Oh, it's hilarious. They got a picture of Jack. They got all the team players, like Thomas Rosicky, big long sideburns. There's no faces. He's just got the old Arsenal kit from the 70s. Santi Cazorla, you just see the top part of his head. Jack Wilshere has got the 1990s rave-style red hat and I think a whistle hanging out of his mouth. And then you've got other ones. Oh, I can't find any more. But then do an entire breakdown of every single player this season, how long they've been out for. Rosicky, 211 days total this season he's missed. Flamini has missed 7. Bellerin's missed 6 days. Lauren Koscielny's missed 3. And then they go and break down the injury zones, like 0% head, 3% torso, 3% arms, 13% midriff, 34% thighs, 16% knees, 13% lower legs, 16% feet. That'll all be Jack Wilshere probably in his wonky ankles. And then it breaks it, I'm not going to go into this, but it breaks it down per month, how many injuries we've had. Then it compares this season to last season. Injury sustained, 31. That's down 47% on last season. Total days lost this season, 1,186, 28% down on last season. But I'm not going to read them all, but go and have a look at that. And so the injuries at the moment, Koscielny, dead leg, been out for 4 days so far, not sure when he's coming back. Gabriel, thigh non-specific, 6 days been out, probably back in 3 weeks. Rosicky, been put down at half-time, poor bloke, never going to play again. Santi Cazorla, he's been out for 81 days so far, 2 weeks until his return. Lateral ligament tear. Jack Wilshere, ankle non-specific, 4 weeks till he's back, 201 days out so far. And it's also got Carl Jenkinson, cruciate ligament tear, his ACL, 5 months until he's back, and he's been out 26 days. So go and have a look at that site. It's absolutely brilliant, their injury breakdown. I've never seen a site that does it in so much detail. And then if you click on the players' details, then it will, like if you click on Thomas Rosicky, it will tell you how much we bought him for, when we bought him, what position he plays, how tall he is, and it lists every single one of his injuries.
That's great. I've spoken about that website on here before, actually, Danny. I think when we did an injury list, it's also good. I know it's a competitor product to your Hybrian, but it's also very good. It lists every single Arsenal transfer from 1996 till today.
Does it?
Yeah, and it breaks it down by season, ins and outs. It shows where they've gone, where the players now. So it's really good, and it goes down to all the smallest granulars of the players, the youth players in and out. And I'd thoroughly recommend Arsenal Report.
I'm just looking at the transfer thing now. Oh, and they got from last season. They had Diaby. He's got a neck break. He's got a bandage on his head, blood dribbling down, and his arm in a sling. So all the way they just give the players, like Checker's got his hat on. Just the way they've gone and caricatured each player. Yeah, but their thing looks pretty good. And Sagna, he's all brown with white little dreadlocks, which is not, what was it? It wasn't dreadlocks. So it's kind of curtain cornroll things. God, as if I know anything about hair. I'm going to shut up now before I insult someone.
Racist.
Go on, Mr. Fife. You do it, yes.
Wolf. All right. And before I close out, is that everything everyone wants to say on the Leicester game?
Yeah, I just really enjoyed it because I was... Stop putting games on at 12 p.m. kickoff, for God's sake. Will you think about these people? I got the offspring to record it, and then I watched it at 4 o'clock, and it's brilliant.
Tell the listeners what time you actually got up, Danny.
4. 3.
Tell the listeners what time you actually got up, Danny.
I can't remember.
It's 7, I believe.
Was it 7?
Yes.
Did I get up at 7 on Sunday?
Yes, you woke up at 4, but you didn't actually get up to the
Probably.
PC until 7. I believe it's 7:06 p.m.
All right, stalker.
Lazy
Jeez.
shit.
Yeah, but that was it because I was trying to get my my Tesco Hoodle to be able to stream to my big TV in my bedroom, and I was up till 6:30, and it wouldn't work. So I ended up throwing the bloody thing. So I could have sworn then. Yeah, I threw it. I went, no more.
5 was up making millions while you were laying in bed.
I actually wasn't. I was hurt because my my usually robust drinking partner ditched me because it was Valentine's Day. So
I heard a rumour that you run the Gherkin, Mr. Fife. Jimmy Trader told me. He said you run that place single-handedly. I think you take a little bit more credit.
Jesus, Jimmy is a weapon. But no, I was referring to Mark, their listeners, who didn't attend his usual beer drinking duties, as he had the lovely Mrs. King to look after. Anyway, we'll be
poor form, I think.
Very poor. Sack him. Out.
Surprised he didn't leave the game early, but.
Oh, has he gone for another wee?
Okay, no.
No, he's there.
All right.
Bless.
Well, before this turns ugly, listeners, we'll move on to our main topic. And today I wanted to talk about the media in the United Kingdom. And basically, kind of the reason for this is I was sifting through the internet the other day, and I found an article from 2003 by one of the more famous national newspaper correspondents, Paul Hayward, where he's labelled Robert Pires a despicable diver. And this came after the dive by Pires, or the contact he had against a game against Portsmouth. I think it was in our Invincible season. And basically, Pires was widely lambasted by the UK media, partly because it was dive, and partly because it was against, I think, the lovable Harry's team. But on the weekend, the same Paul Hayward put out a tweet about Jamie Vardy, which seemed pretty vague when I felt Vardy did exactly the same thing. And I kind of wanted to get into the topic, do we think that in the press and mainstream media, including things like Match-A-Day, do we think that foreign players are fairly mistreated? Is there a level of xenophobia? Is there casual racism? Are they maligned unfairly compared to their English counterparts? Because I feel it's a topic that we've touched upon as Arsenal fans for quite a while. I know there's differing views, and some have called me being, overly politically correct this week. But I wanted to kind of get to the bottom of that. So I'm going to kickstart with Mark. What's your kind of take on this?
Well, let's not forget. I think that game finished 1-1, didn't it? When Pires took a dive and won a penalty for us to equalise. And
Sheringham put one up, didn't he?
And if if Bobby hadn't have done that, who knows? Maybe we would never have had the Invincibles. So let's always remember that it's sometimes players go down a little bit easy, and that's how football is nowadays. It's one of the parts of football that just happens. I don't know. There's a lot of xenophobia in our press anyway. We've all had the thing about Johnny Foreigner coming over here, and the foreign players. Yeah, they're plenty of skillful, but they cheat and they've got all the nasty bits that none of our lads would ever do. Vieira got done for spitting. Jurgen Klinsmann was infamous for his diving, hence his goal celebrations at a point. I just think it's just the usual bollocks dreamt up by the media just to make themselves seem still relevant, which they're not really, to be honest, so I don't really bother about it.
No, it's fair. So there's another thing. I think after the game, either Saturday or Sunday, I read the minute-by-minute tweet report by the Telegraph, and on there they described Vardy's incident as him winning the penalty, whereas it went on to say about Mahrez, the Algerian is fortunate, to avoid a yellow for diving. I didn't really see the need for them to, label his nationality and also why his was a dive but Vardy's wasn't. What do you think, Chris?
I do think that in the UK we do have a bit of a "we gave the game to you lot" kind of mentality. I do think our media are very, very quick to sort of jump on the foreign lads. Robert Pires signed for us in the year 2000. If you're seriously trying to tell me that no player had dived or had exaggerated contact before the year 2000, I think you'd be a liar. I think that I think that's rubbish. Let's not forget that Steven Gerrard and Wayne Rooney, two of the fabled sons of English football, are not prone to throwing themselves on the floor without any contact at all themselves. So I think we have to pinpoint that. I do just think that I don't think it's an anti-Arsenal thing in the media. I think that some journalists make a bit of a run for their own back with their comments. I do think that they sort of make these sweeping statements. Obviously, there is a bit of clickbait about it. There is a bit of we've got to shift some newspapers. But I just think it's very lazy journalism, and I think it's very easy to pick on a player like that. Let's not also forget that some of the modern so-called greats. I mean, look at what Diego Costa gets away with, and Robert Perez got away with one, if you like. Maybe got away with 2 or 3 over his Arsenal career, but in a career that spanned 6 years, Diego Costa has easily done as much in 6 months, and it very much goes under the radar. And I think if we were on the continent a bit more, you do see it a lot in foreign leagues, particularly in La Liga and Serie A. So it's just one of those things that English journalists are very quick to jump on, and very selective about who they jump on and for what reasons. And I think when you've got a player like Robert Perez, who's he's very Gallic, and he's all about flair, and I think he was just a scapegoat during a period of time where the media wanted to poke their finger at somebody.
No, that's very fair, and I want to bring you into the conversation and kind of. I think Kris has given us quite his valid view there, and obviously Mark's very strongly opinionated. But do you think we're reading too much into this, or do you think there's kind of a level of casual xenophobia haunting punditry? I think I seem to recall a couple of years ago, Arsenal fans picked up on it after Santi Cazorla took a dive. He kind of maintains that he had contact. I know Arsene Wenger publicly apologised, but I remember he was hounded on Match Today, and Luis Suarez also used to get hounded. But at the same time, Lineker and co never picked up on Bale. They never picked up on Gerrard. Is there something in this, or is it just us reading too much into it?
Yes, and before I answer that, don't forget Eduardo, who actually ended up getting banned for something that he didn't do, and they had to rescind it in the Celtic Champions League qualifier. So I think there's been an awful lot of blame laid at the foot of foreigners in relation to this. You're right, you've named British players, Ashley Young's another, but it's been going on not in the last 20 years since the foreign players have arrived, or 30 years or whatever it is. In the 1960s and 1970s, you're not going to tell me that Franny Lee at Manchester City had an inner ear infection so many games. It's gone on since certainly 50 years. So to lay the blame, for Danny Mills to say Robert Pires imported it into this country is laughable, and I think more of a... You spoke about beforehand, this was on the topic of the media. I think some of the pundits we need to look at more in depth, because I don't know how some of them get a job. How does Danny Mills get a job? How does Robbie Savage get a job? What did they actually achieve in the game to be able to be paid good money to talk utter bollocks to us?
It's not even just about what do they achieve in a game. You look at the likes of Gerrard and Carragher. Unfortunately, did stuff in the game, but neither of them should be a pundit at all. But again, Gary Neville, on the other hand, we all hated him as a footballer, but what a fantastic pundit he is. I mean, Paul Merson, I used to like him until every time he turns up on TV, might as well have a big banner saying, I'm a Chelsea fan, because that's all he goes on about. I know you've got him as your background picture, Fife. It just annoys me. Merson isn't even a good pundit. There's so many of them that are rubbish, and then you hear the bloke who used to be at Man United is on Talk Sport today, not known for being at Man United. I can't remember what his name is. He's very, very good. There's just too many pundits out there that are there because of who they are, not what they do. And I'm dreading the day that moron Rooney retires. Imagine him being on TV trying to be a pundit. He'll make Carragher look like bloody Graham Souness. No, Graham Souness is rubbish as well. Yeah,
They're not the brightest either, are they, Danny?
No, they're all thick as shit.
If you listen to, ironically, Dave will probably back me up on this, you listen to someone like Martin Keown, who was known on the pitch as, let's be honest, a fucking animal.
Got a monkey's head.
But he's so articulate, he's so well spoken, you can tell he studies the game, he understands the game, there's no bias, and he's a very well respected pundit, and he talks a lot of good. So I'm not a big fan of Liverpool, in fact I fucking hate them, but Graham Souness is another one who sometimes he might come out with the odd thing that's a bit controversial, but he'll tell it like it is, and he'll just say it straight. And I think there's so many as you say, pundits that are brought into the game. You get prats like Danny Mills said, "Oh, Robert Pires is disrespectful for trying that penalty that's been highlighted in the wake of the Messi thing." And it's just like, seriously, you're Danny Mills, mate. What did you ever do in the game? One of your highlights was getting injured at a World Cup. I mean, you're not. You played for Middlesbrough and Leeds, and you got absolutely destroyed by Robert Pires and Thierry Henry time and time again, and you're holding a grudge, and it's a little bit pathetic, really. And I think the only people that we as kind of fans, or the only people that I personally respect, are the people that work in football, that commentate or that watch football from all around the globe and can look at things objectively. And obviously, Danny, I listen to a lot of pods, but I would rather listen to somebody who has watched every league, or at least 3 or 4 different leagues in different countries, who can give a really balanced view, rather than some bloke who, just because he had 3 lions on his chest, thinks he knows better for the English game.
There's so many people out there, like the ones that do the Football Weekly on the Guardian pod. Most of the people that go on there could go, I mean, they do, they're on BT Sport, but they're so much better than the BBC. Isn't it like the BBC were paying Mark Lawrence and Alan Hansen £1 million a year or something like that? Or £500,000 a year? It's absolutely mental. These people are rubbish. Mark Lawrence turns up looking like he's just been found under a bench.
It's because he has.
Yeah, he looks like he's got a vagina on his face. I was going to say,
go on.
the on Danny Mills, I would say he's given us a couple of great moments. The goal against Everton for Man City was a cracker. Don't you remember that back in 2005? No idea how he pulled it off. It was a screamer from about 35 yards out. And also the funniest sending off I've ever seen, when he kicked the ball into Ashley Cole and he managed to get himself sent off. That's been a fucking numpty.
That's not the best memory, though, Five. Do you remember the Thierry Henry incident? Where
when he nutmegs him, yeah.
And the one where he's just in his face and he just screams in his face and punches his chest, and Mills just sort of tries to pat him off. I mean, that was a classic Henry. The Alan Davis story that he tells again on the Tuesday Club, where he says about Alan Davis meets Danny Mills in a bar in Portugal somewhere, and he says he calls over Colin Cooper, the ex-Middlesbrough player, and he says, what did you think of Henry and Pires and all that lot? Danny Mills does, and Colin Cooper says, well, Thierry Henry said to me before the game, he's like, what have you won? I'm going to take you and I'm going to destroy you. And Colin Cooper said, and fair play to him, he did. It's just like that, and that is just, people like Mills. It's frustrating because occasionally, Joey Barton's another one. Occasionally, they'll say something and you think, okay, you do understand the game. And then in the very same sentence, they'll say something that's utterly just beyond comprehension. And you just think, how have you got a job?
I think, yeah, even a blind chicken can pick up a piece of corn. So there was actually, I think he was at Danny. There was talking about Merson talking at his arse. There was a point where he actually even left his co-commentators on Sky, who were quite idiotic, bereft when he said that Bellerin should play centre back on the weekend to put up with Vardy's pace. And I'm just like, and then they were like, but he's never played centre back before, Merce, and just imagine if he was the manager of Arsenal, it would just be a disaster.
Tony Adams is another one who talks eloquently in Britain. I mean, like Lee Dixon, Martin Keown. I mean, even David Seaman is brilliant. Sol Campbell's rubbish. Ian Wright. I mean, remember when Ian Wright left the BBC and he was doing nothing? He's now doing Radio 5. He's doing Absolute Radio. He's doing, I think he's on BT and he does Sky. All these, because he's passionate. He is more like one of us fans that is on there. He's absolutely brilliant, but there's so many on there. But even the Liverpool fans, I was talking to a bloke when I was rang up and sorting out my mobile phone today, and he was a Scouser working for Tesco's, and I was talking to him about football, and I said, how is Jamie Carragher anything to do with commentating? He just laughed. And I went, no, but when Gerrard comes on, he just laughed again. And Michael Owen, it's just the Scouse Mafia. Most of those people shouldn't be allowed to talk about football in the shower, let alone on the bloody radio or TV.
Have
we finished with this, Mr. Five? Because I'd like you to... go on.
Not quite. I was going to say, on the mention of Michael Owen, I was going to say to you, given we've been talking about your namesake and co-EDLer, I want to ask you about the Danny Mills comment, and Danny Mills and Danny Murphy. So, as I think Kris has already alluded to, Danny Mills basically accused Perez of bringing diving to the Premier League this week, despite Michael Owen, the English Michael Owen, having dived against Argentina. He dived several times. Just how stupid do you think Danny Mills is? He lambasts Perez for that famous missed penalty with Thierry Henry, and yet said when Suarez did it, it was magnificent. How stupid is he? Should he be a pundit if he's quite clearly bitter?
No, he shouldn't. He's an idiot. There's so many of them shouldn't. We should be able to vote. We should have representative of different clubs, people who do podcasts and people who can talk, have them doing it, and then save the BBC and Sky an absolute bloody fortune.
Interesting. And then while we're on Danny, Mark, there was a question which Davis insisted we asked about his love child Ramsey. I believe Danny Murphy basically praised Jamie Vardy for the way he dived and simulated for the penalty, but he said he was disappointed in Ramsey going down after the potential leg-breaking tackle by Drinkwater. I mean, what was your views on that tackle and just the general media reaction to Ramsey? I saw there was Twitter fans from rival teams jumping over how I think Ramsey took three rolls and got straight back up, and they're calling him a disgrace. I mean, what's your view?
Do you know, the funny thing is that happened right in front of us, and I didn't see the challenge. But I saw Ramsey rolling over and over and over, and then jump up, and I thought, that's fucking random. What are you doing? You're either that hurt that you've got to roll over that many times that you can't jump up, or I just didn't get it. And he seemed really pissed off. It was only afterwards, sort of on Twitter and that, when I saw the pictures. And admittedly, it was just like a still shot of Drinkwater's challenge on him. And I mean, it looked like an awful tackle, a real nasty challenge that didn't appear to be needed in any way, shape, or form. So I don't know. And then I heard that Danny Murphy had somehow tried to defend him in some way, and I think it's the funny thing is when you've got ex-pros, they like to make sure you understand that they're ex-pros and that we're not, because they like to make out they know things about the game that we'll never understand because we've never played. So I think it's just half the time they just talk a load of bollocks to try and justify their existence. And their place on the pedestal that we should all look up to him and say, well, he played for England and he played for Liverpool, so he must know what he's on about. Most of them are a bunch of fucking dickheads.
Ooh, potty mouth.
Succinct. That's what I like about Mark.
Do you want some? Sorry, Danny. Do you want some quotes from Robert Perez about what he's responded to Danny Mills in particular? So on the penalty, on the issue of whether it's disrespectful or not, he said, "We were within our rights. The intention was never to disrespect anyone. People did it before and people have done it after us. It's like the Panenka in other ways of taking penalties. It didn't work for us. It was a shame, but we won the game. We didn't insert or hurt anyone." Obviously, for Danny Mills at the time, it's hard to understand that you could actually have a penalty taken like that. Maybe he didn't even know it was allowed, which I love that little bit at the end. And then on the diving thing, he says, "It's the same with diving. I didn't bring it to England. There was one controversy against Portsmouth, but there was contact. When you run fast with the ball and dribble, a slight touch from a defender or even a movement towards the ball can unbalance you. I looked for the foul sometimes. I provoked the defender for sure, and most of the time I dribbled past, but I never dived, and I have never intentionally disrespected anyone." So there you go. He's had his say, and fair play to him.
You can read the full extract in today's copy of the Times. I actually bought it this morning. It's a succinct piece by Bobby, and actually what blew my mind was that Danny Mills's piece criticising Perez was in the Times. And this is one of the held up as probably the kind of the most respected newspaper for political and just general unbiased, and it's supposed to represent the views of the thinking man. And so for them to hold up Danny Mills as a columnist, as a thought piece, it's shocking.
And they expect you to pay for that.
They do.
You said the thinking man, or did they mean the Cro-Magnon man?
No. Anyway,
with the Ramsey tackle as well, and I do agree with Mark's point. Like I can sort of see the argument of a player rolls around and gets back up, but again, if you're in that situation and you are Aaron Ramsey, your first instinct will be, as you hit the deck, Christ on a bike, I check my limbs are still attached, and then the adrenaline and probably the anger forces you to your feet to go, what, have you not seen that? And for a tackle, when you look back at it, I mean, who was it? Somebody was, I think it might have been, was it Martin Atkinson after the game, and he said, I saw it and I didn't deem it worth action.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seriously, mate, how? I mean, if you actually see the challenge, it's beyond comprehension. And I would say that if it was an Arsenal player or not an Arsenal player, challenges like that, and then you get the old, well, he's not that kind of player. Well, again, to quote Alan Davis, you're not a murderer until you murder someone. So, it was a terrible challenge, and I don't blame Aaron Ramsey for immediately sort of going to ground on his first instinct, and then very quickly when he realised he hadn't got the decision and his limbs were still attached, then going, hang on a minute, how have you not seen that? It was, to criticise a player for that, it's just, do your research, realise that this kid nearly had his career ended. I think he's entitled to one.
Yeah, and what I would say on that point, though, where they say he's not that kind of player, I don't know if you guys noticed, I don't know if they picked it up on TV, off the ball in the first half. Ramsey laid off the ball, made a nice pass, and then about 3 or 4 seconds later, Drinkwater's running into the back of him and just sent him flying on the floor. And he's not even picked up a card, which I thought was, shocking. And then, on this topic, is there anything else you guys want to add, or are we hot to try and move on?
I was just going to we're all about our foreigners and people coming in. What was the first foreign player you remember coming in to play for Arsenal? Because I know the first one I remember seeing was many years ago, was Vladimir Petrovic. Remember picking up a programme when I was at the 1988 League Cup final. Someone had left the programme on the floor that had nothing to do with that game, and it was an old Arsenal programme, and it had a little bit about Vladimir Petrovic in it. But the first one I remember was Siggy Johnson and Paul Iderson.
Oh, Paul Iderson, fucking hell.
They're both rubbish.
and also, if you talk about Pires brought diving to the game, anyone heard of David Ginola or Jurgen Klinsmann? I vaguely recall them being around much before Robert Pires was.
Certainly were. Does anyone remember any the first foreign player to come play for Arsenal? Or have I covered all three of them?
I'll tell you a little story, and one or two may have seen it last night.
I was hoping you'd have an answer to this.
It's not even me, it's the old man.
Wow.
We had a goalkeeper who went on, he ended up his career at Ajax, but I got a feeling he was a Belgian. I might be wrong, but a guy called Gerrit Kaiser, who played, I think, something like 11 games in 1932. And I was looking for it because I wanted to make some diving foreigner gag, the first one and all the rest of it.
Here you go, 30-31, Gerrit Kaiser from Ajax.
But you know the funny thing? If you go and look at the Arsenal player database on Arsenal.com, he's not mentioned.
Why?
I don't know.
We sold him to Charlton, apparently.
I did it from, well, the old man told me about him, so that was how I knew. But yeah, he did. I think it was Charlton he went to.
And then QPR. I'm only looking at transfer market. I've never heard of him. Then QPR, then back to Ajax.
There you go.
One of the
foreigners for 80 years.
One of the key pulling powers in bringing me into Arsenal was actually John Jensen. So.
Oh, the legend that is. Danny, you were there when he scored, weren't you? I was there.
Oh, yeah, New
QPR.
Year's Eve. That's the day I met Bob Wilson.
Mark's such a little Englander, he actually considers George Graham to be foreign. So.
Oh, dear. Have you got any interesting ones about the first player you remember? Mark, that's foreign?
No, it was, to be honest, it was probably Petrovic for me, and he was a brilliant player. He was just a great player, just at the wrong time and the wrong club. He was the kind of guy that if he'd have come in under Arsene Wenger, he'd have bossed the Premier League undoubtedly. But it was just 20 odd years too soon, I'm afraid, for Vladimir.
I'm just looking. We bought him in July '82 from Red Star Belgrade, and then we sold him to Royal Antwerp a year later. So I think he's a manager now, isn't he? I think I vaguely remember him doing something like that. But yeah, it's always mysterious. You had someone who wasn't from the UK or Ireland playing for him. You thought, oh wow, that's mysterious. Who are these foreigners? What do they want? And now look, we can't move for the Swines.
Well, it was still the communist bloc in those days, so it was a strange transfer in all manner of ways.
Lovely. I think, are we all done on that now?
I think we are done. So I just wanted to close out by saying how pleasantly surprised I am. I know Kris earlier mentioned Martin Keown, but I think of all of the players thus far to have retired from the Wenger era. Robert Pires, for me, is probably the greatest ambassador for Arsenal, and in a non, financial and self-appointed way. I think he's a great ambassador to the club. He's always at games. He's always, with fans. He's never got anything bad to say about the club, in the press. And he just seems to be an all-round great guy. And I'm really surprised at how he's really stuck around, more than anyone else. I thought he would have been back to live in somewhere, Gaelic, sunny France. But fair play to him. North London really got his heart, didn't it?
I liked him so much that all my Corinthian figures, I coloured in the little beard with a permanent marker. And I've still got them all. Don't you laugh at me, Carpenter. I know you did it.
I still sport the Bobby Pires snail trail down my chin. And my cat, who is... he's not here, he's buggered off. Bobby, well, that's who he's named after. So, yeah, I have a cat named Bobby.
Oh.
What a
let's get the ball rolling on the highlights of the show tonight, gentlemen. We decided today that we were going to have throw our dab hand into trying to predict what's going to happen now as we ramp up towards the business end of the season, to coin a few Gary Lineker cliches. And basically, I asked the gents to all look at Arsenal, Leicester, Spurs, and City's remaining 12 league games and predict, the number of points they'll get and what they'll finish on. And then we can look to maybe aggregate and predict what we think is going to happen at the end of the season. So I'm going to hand over first to Dave. How many points did you see Spurs finishing on?
Oh, God, no. 79, I'm afraid. I've got them in for an unbeaten finish to the season.
Boo.
Jesus. How about, where's
Heretic.
Why don't you give me your top four and in order then, sorry?
Okay, then. Show to me how, well, the Tottenham result obviously tells me I'm not looking through rose-tinted glasses, but when I tell you that I have Arsenal on 81, then that probably gives you a clue that maybe I am, because I don't think Arsenal are down for another defeat either. Then my third place is a tie between Leicester and Manchester City with 74.
74. Interesting. And how about yourself, Chris? Are you as chest beating as our Dave, or are you a little bit more down in the dumps?
No, I am much on the Dave train. You know me.
Stupid question if ever I've heard one.
Always positive, as Danny loves.
12 straight wins, all 9-0.
Not quite, no. I also have us finishing top on 81 points. So I agree with Dave there. I don't see us suffering another defeat either. I've got Leicester in second on 79 and City and Spurs level on 77. With a gap all the way down to Man United in fifth, by the way, of 64 points. There's quite a gap there. But yeah, I do think that... do think us and Spurs are... Yeah, I think Spurs are in for a few defeats, hopefully.
So that's interesting. So for our more sadistic listeners, you're in for a treat. We've now got Danny and Mark to level it out. Danny, I know you've gone for quite an interesting number.
Yeah, I've been, because I forgot to do this because I was doing all the other stuff, and so I went back over it, and I've done Arsenal's one 3 times. I've got, I was getting 26, Spurs 24, Leicester 29, Southampton 26, because Southampton got Forster back. So I got Leicester finishing top on 82, and I went, that can't be right. So I checked it again, and then I checked it again, and it is. I can't see them losing another game. They have only got 12 games to play all season. We've got FA Cup, Champions League, and we've got the Premier League, and the same with Spurs. They've got all these one. No, they've got the UEFA Cup So I've got Leicester first on 82. Arsenal second on 77, although I think we're going to win the title. I don't know what I've done wrong there. Spurs third on 76, and then Southampton fourth on 66. Now, I've taken Man City out because, you can't predict a plane crash where it's going to land. It's impossible. And I've taken Man United out of it. I didn't bother doing their ones because they know they are not finishing top 4 at all. So they're going to put all of their eggs in there, or they tried to until they lost tonight. They're going to put their broken eggs into a shitty basket and try and win the UEFA Cup so they get a Champions League spot. So there you go. I mean, they lost one. I think I did this before I realised they'd lost 2-1. So I don't know why I've got Leicester finishing top, but they're off in Dubai now and they're doing brilliantly. And I think they're going to win the next 5 in a row. But I have got Leicester drawing the last 3 games of the season. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Leicester lose a couple and we win the title by 5 points, but... There again, we know why I'm second bottom of the predictions league. That means Southampton for the title.
And how about the main man, Mark King?
Right, I have got us top, winning the league on 77 points. I've got Leicester and Spurs joint second on 75, and Man City on 71, having completely fallen apart because they obviously couldn't give a shit at the moment because they're all just waiting for Pep to arrive. So I do have us sneaking the title through 2 points, which goes to show how important Welbeck's goal the other day was. But yeah,
How much have you got us on, Mark?
Sorry?
How many points have you got?
77.
Same as me.
Same
I've got
as,
Spurs on 76.
I've just
Same
got
as me,
Leicester dropping off with draws. I've got Leicester probably with a lot more draws than you had, Danny. I just think they'll probably, as Kris said, they may find it harder when they go to teams who are not going to just come out at them and let Leicester pick them off. So I've got a few more draws in their games.
But do you see Leicester losing any?
But you know what? To be honest, I think when I looked at all of those games, I didn't have anyone losing any. I don't think.
Same here. I haven't.
I can see Leicester away at Watford. Weirdly, I can see that being...
And Palace.
Yeah.
What, losing to Palace?
Yep.
Oh, here we go, listeners. That's why. Leicester will go there and thump them 1-0.
The only game I had Leicester down to lose is potentially Chelsea on the last game of the season.
Yeah, that's a big pressure.
Funny enough, I also had the same finish. So I've gone for Arsenal to win the league on 77, Leicester second on 76, Spurs in third on 72, and then I've given City the lowest tally of any prediction on 69. I do think that there's a good chance Spurs are going to lose against West Ham in their away fixture in a couple of weeks, and hopefully that will knock the stuffing out of them slightly. I've put us down to get a draw at Tottenham on March 5th.
Now there's an interesting one, because if you look at the results that Kris and I have predicted, obviously we said both teams were going unbeaten, so we've gone for the draw at White Hart Lane. Yeah. And as we've only got 2 points between the sides, that's the title decider. Should Tottenham beat us, they'll be a point ahead of us at the end of the season on our reckoning.
Yeah, no,
for what it's worth.
And
what I think I'll do,
if we beat them, it could kill them.
So
I'll get everyone's predictions, and then I'll do a little cut and paste and stick it on the website. No. So I'll put how many points we've all been given, and then you can all come and laugh at me for Leicester winning the league by 5 points.
I think you're going to have to. I know you're going to have to bite the bullet on this one, Danny, and just try and guess what points you think City will end up on, albeit you don't think they're going to be in the top four.
Well, they got 12 games to go. I reckon they could. So that's the maximum points they're going to get is 36. So I reckon they'll probably get about 25. So how many have they got at the moment? I'm just having a guess.
47.
47. So that's going to be 72.
72.
Oh well, they're finishing fourth ahead of Southampton. There you go.
That's interesting. So as a collective, if you average out our predicted results, as a group, we have Arsenal finishing in top on 79 points. Leicester in second on 77, Spurs a casual third on 76, and then City way behind on 73.
So collectively, we make more sense than individually.
Also, just a quick one on Man City. The next fortnight for them is massive, and I say that because if you look at their fixtures...
Not Yaya's birthday, is it?
Oh yeah, probably. They've got Chelsea in the FA Cup this weekend, where they probably can't play a full-strength side because they then go to Kiev in midweek.
I think I heard on the radio today that they said that Man City will be putting out a weakened team in the FA Cup.
Yeah, they probably will. I mean, even a weakened team is not bad for them.
Because that's only 3 days before the Kiev game, isn't it?
Yep, and then they played Liverpool back-to-back league and Carling Cup final. And realistically, you know, they want to win a trophy, so they're going to probably play a full-strength side then. They then play Aston Villa. Well, we can write that off, and Norwich write that off, and then they've got Kiev again, and then they've got the Manchester derby the very weekend after the Kiev game, when you obviously throw out the cliche, throw the form out the window at the derby. But I think Man City now, there's a fairly good chance that if they don't take maximum points for the next 4 league games, and they're still in the Champions League, which, let's be honest, they should get through against Kiev, I think they're going to put every ounce of what they've got left into that Champions League run. And depending on who they draw, of course, and of course depending on what we do, I know a lot of people are expecting us to go out. Well, let's just say worst case scenario, we do go out. City then can put all their focus into the Champions League, because realistically, the form they're in right now, that surely they can't be aiming for the title at the moment.
We were all joking earlier as well how funny it would be. Well, not amazing, because they'll never let us forget it. But if Chelsea won the Champions League again, and it denied Spurs in fourth of getting that place 2 times in a row.
That'd be. We were trying to figure that out pre-pod, weren't we? Because I said, "How about this for a good idea?" And then I couldn't even get it right myself. And we think that if you win the Champions League, then fourth place doesn't even get into the playoffs.
If you don't
round.
finish within the top 4, which is a very real possibility for Chelsea. All right, well that was interesting, and
very interesting. I like that.
So it's now time for me to give up the reins and hand over to Danny for the listeners' questions.
Should have some music for that, shouldn't we? Have you got a little ditty, Chris?
Maybe a little jingle.
No, it's long enough already.
Lovely.
That's what she said.
These in the order that...
Sexist.
Yeah. This is in the... this is something else I wrote down. In the last 17 games, won 11, drawn 4, only lost 2, scored 29, conceded 10. We've had 1 loss in our last 10 and 6 clean sheets in our last 6.
Crisis.
So there you go. Another one I do think it is. I said the season was over 2 games ago. This is why everyone laughs and just points and ignores me. Right, I've got these questions down in the order that I read
That's not why
them.
they laugh and point.
Sorry. The notorious Jed. He's been on the radio, hasn't he, Chris?
He has.
Oh,
Josh.
He says, yes, Josh Dawes. He says, are people underestimating how important having Czech in the squad will be in the title race compared to our rivals? Mark, you've been a bit quiet.
Czech. I mean, look, I don't think we'd be still in the mix if we hadn't bought him, to be fair. I'm sure he saved us several points this season. He seems to spread calm amongst the squad, whereas Szczesny seemed to spread cigarettes and mayhem. You need players like that who have got experience of seeing titles out. And I think if we can do it this year, it will be in a large part to having a decent goalkeeper and a good character in the side.
Mark, you've just written Oasis's comeback album title there, Cigarettes and
Mayhem.
That is an album title if ever I heard one.
I reckon so.
Genius.
Anyone else want to chip in on this?
I'd agree.
Hands up.
I'd agree entirely. I think he's won us a number of points over the season. I think he's his presence, but you have to bear in mind also that Tottenham have something similar in Lloris, and I've been very impressed with him as well. So it's fitting that we are the two who I think are likeliest to contest it. But I think Czech's got the edge over Lloris, and we've got the edge over them.
So wise. Okay, next question. While I'm trying to edit together a thing of all our predictions. I forgot to do that as well, haven't we?
I'll send you over the league table predictions.
You lovely little man. We have covered. Nicky Wilson asked us to compare Vardy's Stonewall penalty against Perez. We've covered that. Dwayne Isaac Ellis says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how gutted would you be if we don't win the league? Well, is anybody not going to be 10 out of 10 gutted? Well, there you go. So that one kind of explains itself. Here you go. Pete Gooner. He was on the transfer deadline day. Hello, Pete. He says, if we win the FA Cup again, should the FA give us a gold one for winning it 3 times in a row so we can say, but is your goal? No, see, that's the thing with Twitter. We ran out of words. I don't know what the hell he was on about at the end of it. Should they give us a gold one? Does anybody think they shouldn't? Good. Right, that's that one done. It's all quite self-explanatory. Yonko Abs, whatever it is, do you think Arsenal will be far less attractive for players when Wenger leaves? Oh, that's a good one. Mr. Fife.
I mean, it all depends on who we bring in as a manager, in my mind. I think Arsene Wenger's certainly been able to use his contacts in football, his reputation, his ability to converse in several languages. I think there's been certain players who've come out and said, the reason I've joined Arsenal is because of the Wenger factor. Now, how much they say that because it's true or how much they say that because it's publicity, I don't know. But the reality is we know that many top players have attributed themselves to come into Arsenal because of Wenger. But I don't think we should underestimate the pulling power of Arsenal. Before Wenger came, we signed players like Dennis Bergkamp, players like Ian Wright. We've had big players at Arsenal before Wenger, and we'll have big players again when he's gone. We're one of the top 10 biggest clubs in the world. We pay very competitive salaries, if not, albeit not quite the top. You'll be living and playing in London in front of a 60,000 strong crowd. there'll be kids all around the world who would give their right arm to play for a club like Arsenal. And obviously, having a top-class, well-renowned manager like Wenger is going to attract players, and obviously younger players can see the work and the effort he goes to try and mould players and the development he's given to players. But I don't think we should, ever underestimate what we are as a club. You remember who you are, what you are, and where you come. That kind of old thing. And I think it might hurt us, but in the long run, if we get the right manager, who I always joke about the incompetence of our board, but I'm sure we'll get a good manager. And I don't think we're going to do the kind of the David Moyes and Louis van Gaal trick. And I am confident we will continue to be able to attract the top players, regardless of whether Wenger's there or not. Albeit I do appreciate it will have, some impact on some specific players.
Anyone else got anything to add to that? It's an interesting question.
Yeah, of all the reasons that you would give for players joining the Arsenal, and much as I stand up for Arsene Wenger and all the rest of it, it's the status of the club that attracts players. You're not going to tell me anything else. And when he's gone, players will still want to come here as long as we are competitive. And I can't foresee a situation in which he will leave us in the state that Ferguson left United in.
I agree.
Wow.
If we're playing Champions League football and we can afford to pay competitive salaries, why wouldn't someone not want to come to us?
I think we're arguably more of a draw right now than we ever have been. If you look at what's around us, I think, Chelsea, whatever they think they are, they're a soulless vacuum of fake history. Manchester United are still, for me, the biggest club in the world, but with a very damaged reputation and with no Champions League football. Players that would normally have signed in an instant are now going to think twice. Liverpool, similar. I think, that Alexis proves that theory. And Manchester City are going to go after a very specific type of player that is going to be a player that Pep Guardiola will want to get, and in my personal opinion, is not going to be a player that Arsenal would have either the financial clout to get or indeed the ability to outbid Manchester City to get. So I think arguably, if there was ever a summer or a period of time where we could arguably get players that that the club itself sells itself to up above all else over than the manager, now is a real position of power, particularly if we go on to win the title.
The only proviso I would put on it is that in 2-3 years' time, when West Ham United are paying 7 shillings and sixpence to rent the Olympic Stadium and have it maintained for them, they're going to have an awful lot of money to throw around, and I would be far more worried about West Ham in 2 or 3 years than I would be Manchester United or Liverpool, frankly.
Fair point, yeah.
I heard a brilliant thing on the, I always mention it, the Guardian's Football Weekly today. They said when Jose comes in, it will be Panini football sticker time, where they'll be trying to get all the best stickers, all the best players, because that's what they'll be doing.
But even if Mourinho does take control of United, they are a mess. I mean, they are a massive mess.
How much of a clear out are they? They're
Exactly.
struggling to bring through the youth players who, bless them, they aren't that good. They've got $300 a week for Fatty Rooney.
As funny as Louis van Gaal is, and believe me, he is. He's no mug. It is funny, and it's great for us to sit on our big thrones and go, ha ha ha, look at the silly fat twat. But not you, Danny. But no, I think he is a World Cup manager. He's a manager who's won things at big clubs before. He must look at what he's got in front of him and think, Memphis Depay, Jesus Christ, they got a Borthwick Jackson. I mean, that's a politician, not a left back. I mean,
Liberal Democrat.
Yeah, they are in need of some serious rebuilding, as are Liverpool. I think the one advantage Liverpool have got is that Klopp has got the German market covered, and I think he'll probably look to go down that end. But
it feels like Liverpool have been rebuilding for about 10 years now.
And the rest, yeah, and the rest.
They've just been constantly rebuilding.
Man City as well, and I know I'm not for a minute defending our lack of transfer activity. I'm not for a minute saying that going without signings was a good thing, but I think it was Nacho Monreal that came out in the press the other day, I think it was yesterday actually, and said that the lack of signings weirdly has gelled this group because they all know each other even better, and they haven't had to integrate a new player other than Petr Cech, who integrates himself. And as I say, it's not in any way excusing our lack of transfer activity, but if we can then add the 2 or 3 bits of quality that we will need with the 2 or 3 going out, when you're looking at Man City, Man United, Liverpool, all having to basically rebuild their whole first team squads, we could touch wood, and Chelsea of course, we could be in a position this summer where we can sort of sit back on the deck chairs and say, right, well, our squad's pretty tidy and we've just added 1 or 2.
I think the that analogy Nacho Monreal gave made it sound like Arsenal are like a tropical fish tank. And you have to be lucky with it. You have to be careful about the number of fish you bring in. And, so I didn't. Maybe I think we need to be a bit careful about what players. I know Giroud has publicly said he doesn't think we need another striker at times. But I do think we have left ourselves short. 1 or 2 times. And if I was playing devil's advocate, which I am here because I do think Wenger is a pull for players. Some ardent believers might say that actually when Wenger leaves, we might be even more of a pull because we'll actually try and sign players. And that's just
heretic.
Me.
Burn the witch.
In the last couple of windows, we haven't really been linked to too many top name players.
Yeah.
Because we haven't really had the intention to. So Benzema was kind of there, and this is just me, shooting the shit as it were, just the other side of the angle before Mark comes in with his ferocious nitpick.
Well, I heard that the Benzema deal fell through because he wanted to open a video shop on the Seven Sisters Road, and it all turned to shit.
Do you know what would be really interesting though, and I'd be interested to get Mark's point of view on this actually, is I know it's probably a bit of a surprising thing to even suggest, but realistically, we're gonna lose at least 2 of Arteta, Flamini, and Rosicky in the summer, if not all 3, and potentially maybe another player as well. You never know what summer will bring. I wonder what the reaction would be to some of the fans that have been openly critical of the club's and the manager's transfer policy if we were to bring in 1 or 2, not stellar names, but names of high quality. I wonder what the reaction would be from the fan base. Would they all go, well, they're not big enough names? Would it just be that, or would they actually go, okay, we're willing to give you a pass? What do you reckon, Mark?
I don't think it's. I think there's a lot of focus on big names and that. And you look at the team, you look at some of our better players, the likes of Kos and maybe Gabriel, and these are guys. And Monreal is another perfect example. These are guys. They weren't brought in as big names. These were players that the club had scouted and decided to bring in, and they've fitted in well to the Arsenal system, and they do a good job. So it's not just about the names and that. It's just actually making the effort to bring them in. I mean, obviously, if you can buy that ready-made quality that preferably is used to the Premier League, is settled in an English culture, particularly if he's a foreign player, that just makes it easier for them to integrate into the side quicker. So there's less time for them to face that learning curve. So I think we focus too much on buying big names, and we all do it. We go through the whole shit that we went through with Benzema and Higuain before that, and at the end of the day, you just want the club to actually buy the right players. And the issue is, this year, as we're all saying, well, will Arsenal be a bigger draw with Wenger or without? Well, it doesn't really matter, because if the club says the players are not available, then they're not available regardless of who the manager is. And that's what the club told us.
And who's to say that the big pulling power at Arsenal isn't Chips Keswick?
Well, listen, the deal is, and I'll tell you one thing, is that we should never lose sight of the fact that we are Arsenal Football Club. We're the biggest club in London. We're the biggest club in the southeast of England. And this is a huge club with absolutely massive potential that has kind of, not fulfilled that for a number of years, and there's no point going over the old ground about why that is. But we are absolutely massive, and it's so important the next manager that comes into this club is the right man for the job. And I think that's one of the things that we're gonna. I'd like to think we're going to need to think about sooner rather than later, but maybe I've got a horrible feeling that with some of the managers getting jobs that they have done, that possibly we may be looking at a few more seasons of Arsene Wenger.
Well, so I just want to come in here, actually. Now, this is Mark's not privy to our WhatsApp group because we don't like him. But we had a bit of a bit of debate in here the other day, and you're going to have to bear with me on this one, listeners, because I know you're going to be screaming down the earphones, no. But we talked about Ospina probably leaving, potentially Debussy, potentially Gibbs. But then we're going to be looking at the three main men in midfield, Arteta, Flamini and Rosicky, all leaving this summer. All three men of experience. And I know one of the earlier questions kind of asked, just how important is it to have someone like Cech in the squad? So how important is it to have people that have been there, done that? As Mark said, they don't need to go for that learning curve. People who already won the league. When it was January, I was saying, I really want Arsenal to loan in a player who's won the league before, who knows how to play in a title run-in. Now, this week we've been linked to someone who fits the bill perfectly, although I think 99% of Gooners have offered him would say no. But what's the pod's view on Michael Carrick?
Can I?
Yeah.
Listen, I think that I think that's a massive backward step, and I agree with what Mark said 110%. We're the Arsenal. We shouldn't be signing cast-offs from sides that are struggling to make the top four and losing in Denmark to a team that Danny can't even say, let alone spell. So it's we shouldn't be aiming. If you're looking at a player like Michael Carrick, I personally I've never thought he was particularly great. I think he makes United better because he's the type of player that they need right now. But I agree with your point there, Fife. I mean, we need to be getting players that have got experience. And I was talking, I think I said to Mark actually the day. No, it was Raj. Sorry. When we signed Kim Källström, now obviously the situation we signed him in wasn't ideal. I think that's fair to say. But he was a player that, if he was fit, would have been a sort of experienced player that you'd like to see as part of a squad. That being said, I'd like to see us go out and maybe look at investing in players that are kind of midway in the careers. So they're sort of the 25 to 27 age bracket, like a Nacho Monreal. And they are out there. The availability thing, I do buy into it to a degree. I do think that there are certain clubs that just don't want to sell their best players. But I think if you're aiming at a Michael Carrick, I just think that's a massive backward step. And people have criticised Mikel Arteta, and rightly so in some respects of his fitness. Bringing in an injury-prone player who, for me, isn't even as technically as good as Mikel Arteta is, you're just going backwards. You're taking 3 steps backwards. You're bringing in another injury-prone player. We've got the experience. We've got Cech. We've got Koscielny's 30 now. Mertesacker. There's plenty of experience in that squad now. We should be aiming a lot higher. And there's plenty of players. I won't bore you with names, but there's plenty of players in the French league, in the Italian league, in the Spanish league, in the Bundesliga that you could get that are easily better or at least as good as Carrick with 4 or 5 years ready to give us over Carrick.
Yeah, I should add in there that I was only playing devil's advocate with Carrick, and actually long term, I know you say you don't want to mention any names. I'd quite like, and one I think the fans have been quite vocal in, is Gdonyan from Dortmund. I think he'd be a great player for Arsenal.
Injury record's the worry, but he is,
precisely.
He is very good. Yeah. Mario Götze is another one to keep an eye on.
Arsenal DNA. Anyway, is there any more questions there, Daniel?
Yes, there certainly is. I know we've got to get a bit of a wiggle on. Someone's wrote something. Oh, good. Right, where are the questions? Oh, no, that's the wrong thing. I think I'm trying to come up with a name for this week's pod, and all I'm getting is grief.
We must have a selfie one somewhere.
Whilst we're procrastinating, have you guys seen the video that went up today of Robin Van Persie singing an R. Kelly song?
Oh, geez,
you have to find it. You have to look for it in Twitter. It's Robin Van Persie in the back of a car doing a karaoke of an RVP song. And it's honestly, his voice is one of the worst I've ever heard. It is comedy gold. Paddy Power tweeted it this morning.
What's he
There's
doing
a little
with
boy inside him.
I was going to say, what's that little boy inside him doing now? I heard he was carpet fitting in Turkey last time I heard. I don't know whether he's still
on the bench. Probably.
Still got a football career, or
they're trying to shift him back to Feyenoord actually. he's not going to move when he's on 250 grand a week, is he?
Dirk Kuyt and Robin van Persie up front for Feyenoord. That strikes fear into the hearts of anyone, doesn't
Him
it?
and Dirk Kuyt, the quickest forward line in the footballing world.
Another
The
thing that
next Chinese takeaway.
Yes, that's where he will
100
be.
million!
Another thing that tickled my ribs this week, you mentioned, Chris, earlier about Chelsea now being the soulless vacuum of a club. There was, did you guys hear the on Radio 606, the Chelsea fan who phoned in from Twickenham saying he's worried that Chelsea are going to become the new Man City?
Oh, that was hilarious.
What, was he ringing in
irony.
from
He just
2002?
didn't get it.
I don't want us to become a Man City and have the soul of our club ripped out. Hello? Where were you in 2004, you muppet?
Anyway, right, that last one we did on Carrick Rumours, that was Daft Ada wrote in about that. Frank McClintock, not the good man himself, said, should Theo start up top versus Hull, or would you give Welbeck the nod? I say this as Giroud should be resting for Farsa. David, you have wise words.
I would
well
have.
done.
That tells you I'm not altogether
The whiskey's
convinced.
kicked in.
Yeah, I'm not altogether convinced that Theo should be starting up top quite yet, but it's the FA Cup. Yes, do need Olivier Giroud to be at his best against Barca. So maybe Danny Welbeck because he needs the match fitness, but Giroud on the bench just in case we need to do anything second half.
Anyone else disagree with that?
Play him
Yeah.
both.
Oh, go on, Mark.
I'd play Theo up front. I'd put Welbeck out on the left and give Alexis a rest because we need Alexis against Barca.
Same. I agree with Mark. Play them both. They both need games. You know, Welbeck's less likely to whinge than Theo is if he's played out wide because he just needs the games, and give Theo a run through the middle. And you
That's
get
a fair point to get Alexis as well.
Yeah, you can rest Alexis. You can put Ox back on or Joel Campbell back on the right. You know, you got wiggle room. The defence is more of a worry, I would say.
I'd play Iwobi up front because you're playing a championship side who are not going to be playing their best players because they want to win the title, and I'd save no one for Barcelona. And then for Barcelona, I'd play the Finnish goalkeeper up front so that we're out of that bloody competition as soon as possible, and then we can do the double.
Iwobi will play over Mesut, you would think.
Yes,
Number 10.
I was just going to say that.
And I'd say that unless he thinks about putting Welbeck on the left, Campbell on the right, and then Ox in the number 10 role behind.
Oh, yes,
Theo.
his future.
And then you got Coquelin and El Nene, or in fact, actually, I would be more tempted to go with Flamini and El Nene.
Yeah.
And put Flamini and just tell him to do what he does. He won't listen anyway, and then give El Nene some run.
Coquelin's still cooling down after the Mara, isn't he?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Right, next question. We've been going for 2 hours now nearly. Sorry, some listeners love it, some hate it. Right, Carl, who is at that _London_guy, is a ABW radio regular. He says, should we be worried about the level of poor refereeing decisions this season and also going forward? I don't care about referees. Don't leave it in their hands. Mr. Fife, what do you reckon?
Yes, I had a conversation with friend of the pod, Blackburn George, over there about this, and we both agree on the principle that the standard of refereeing in the league needs to be much better. Arsenal, we've seen over the years just a significant number of horror tackles that have been going in, two-footed tackles, and even likewise, we were very lucky that Flamini didn't get sent off against Bournemouth the other day. I'd say that was bad refereeing in our favour for once. But the standard of refereeing, all fans think that the refs are biased against them. Honestly, I don't think that. I just think that the standard of refereeing is shite. In terms of how we overcome that, obviously that a lot of that's to do with better education of refs. But I think as a team and what we need to be doing and what we showed in the second half of last week, we need to be in the referee's face more. We need to be, really coercing together and trying to influence the refs, because as a club, we are, fouled a lot of the time because we do draw fouls, because we do hold the ball that little bit longer, because teams do like to kick us to put off our stride, because we are a momentum-based counter-attacking team. So we need players like Sanchez. Giroud does it well. Ramsey, Alexis. I mentioned him twice, but we need players to, orchestrate the way in which that we talk to the ref. All of our best teams used to do it. Man U used to do it. Chelsea, okay, I don't agree that they do it all the time. I think we should only do it when we have the right when we're right to do so. For example, the penalty shout against in the first half against Leicester on the weekend. Giroud was going crazy, but who else was going with him? Why are we not influencing the rest? Why are we not making them realise early the number of mistakes they're making won't go unnoticed? And because when they start to do that, it G's the crowd up too. And when the crowd are going for it and the players are going for it, the referees are going to, cave in, and they are going to say, okay, Simpson, that's your fifth tackle. I'm going to have to book you now, because it was getting ridiculous. And so, whilst I do think the overarching solution, is the better training for refs. We do have a means to an end as opposed to an end to a means here, and we might as well start executing it better.
Right. Should we move on to the next question?
Mm-hmm.
I've got to get a wiggle on with these. Right. Restore. No, I don't want to do that one. This is one that Mark picked out. This is from Mark, one that Mr. Fife picked out as well. From Mark, 71 AFC. How much are Ramsey, Theo, the Ox worth, and would you sell if you knew the millions raised would be spent on a midfield or MA? What's the MA? Midfield attacker?
Guess so.
MF? What's MF stroke MA?
Midfield attacker, I guess, yeah.
Dear, oh dear, no idea. Right, so how much, well, I'll just go from 1 to 1. How much does everybody think Ramsey is worth? David?
Oh, goodness me, I should think 35 million at least in today's market.
5?
Yeah, today's market is probably even more ridiculous than last year, which was ridiculous than the year before. So I'm going to have to agree with Dave, 35 in this one.
Chris?
35, but more to an English club.
Oh, Mark?
30 in England.
I would say if someone like Barcelona, Real Madrid or Man City wanted him, probably about 45 million, everyone else about 30, so the same as you lot. How much does everybody think that Theo is worth, David?
25. Depends who to. I think there are teams we would not want to sell him to for as little as 25, but when you consider how old he is now, what he's actually achieved, he's still not the finished article.
5?
Yeah, agree 25, but if you wanted to go to China, call it 70.
Yeah.
Chris?
18 to 20 at the very top for me. I don't think he's worth anywhere near 20 million. I don't think clubs would... 2 summers ago, Liverpool would have given us 165 million for him, but now I don't think a club would pay over 20.
I bet United would.
I think you'd get
True.
25 for him, yeah.
He's a Liverpool fan as well.
Yeah, the little kid inside him, as I told him, supports Liverpool.
We all have our faults.
I think, again, it depends
So
on
is
who
Ramsey.
wants him. If it's Man City or Chelsea that want him, that we could get as much as 35 for him, but I don't think he's worth any more than about 20, 25, like you lot say. And then the next one is the Ox. I don't know why he's put the Ox in here. We've got no one ever wants to sell the Ox. David, how much for the Ox?
Oh, goodness me, this is like fantasy football. I hate this. How can I say this without upsetting people? Not 20.
5?
15 million, and I think he'd be good to go to a club like Everton. But it's one of those players, do you stick or twist? He could come good, but do we have the time and the patience to put up with it? And not put up with it, but to keep persistent with it when we could go and spend similar money on someone who we know will deliver more. So I think market value is 15, albeit I do feel he's got a lot more potential than what he shows. He just needs to get his head into the game and to, believe in himself.
Can I just mention at this point, I don't think there is the remotest hope of any of them going this summer, given the number of players that we do have to turn over. So it is very much a hypothetical discussion.
I won't stop the papers speculating, Chris?
Yeah, on Dave's train here, I don't know if I've said anyone, but current form, 12 mil tops.
Bloody hell, Mark.
20.
Yeah, I tend to go towards Mark's end of it, that he's young, he's English, he turns it on for England, and I reckon, 20, somewhere between 15 and 20.
Mark meant 20 quid.
Oh, sorry, jolly good. And just a yes or a no, would you sell any of those if you knew the money raised was going to be spent on an attacking midfielder? I don't know why MF stroke MA equals £0 me. Mark, 71 AFC, I think you were maybe on the Space dust.
Let me answer it though for him,
Go on
because
then.
he's
Yeah.
taken the time to ask it.
Yeah.
We don't need to sell any of them to be able to buy whatever player we feel we need to strengthen the squad. And it is a squad that we need in the seasons coming up.
And we also have 90 million cash in the bank. We don't need to be raising any more
At
funds.
least.
At
Unless
least.
he finds another ranch that he wants.
Dave is absolutely spot on. Just to play devil's advocate, if we were in a situation where we did have to sell to bring in, there's two of those three. One that I would probably be comfortable letting go, and another that I think harbours a desire to go or will do in the future. I won't say any more than that.
I wouldn't sell Ramsey.
He's one
Neither
of the
would
two.
Kris. No.
No, I wouldn't sell him. He's the one I think that he might look at what Gareth Bale's done and think I could do that in a midfield. I don't think he's personally at that level yet, but
I think
In his head, he is.
in his head he is. I agree. Yeah,
I
agree.
think there's not a chance that Barcelona... We always talk on this podcast about the hypothetical situation. What if Barca and what if Real come in for a huge bid for Ramsey? And bless him, that's probably Jason Davis perverting our minds. But I do think Ramsey is a very good football player. I just don't think those two clubs are going to come in for him. And what I would say about Ramsey is, whilst he, as a boy, was a Liverpool fan, and one thing, there was a listener's question, so sorry for trampling it if you've already got this down, Danny. There was talk that Ramsey's made it clear he would quite like to become the next captain of Arsenal when Mickey Arteta leaves. And I remember as a kid when he signed for us from Cardiff and ahead of Man U, he basically alluded to the fact that as growing up as a Liverpool fan, he really wants to become the next Steven Gerrard of Arsenal. And I genuinely believe he does want that, and I think he would relish the opportunity to become the club captain. I think he's grown up significantly now.
He was Wales captain for a while, wasn't he?
He was, and it got taken off of him because he was still a bit young, and he wasn't quite there for the performances, and his performances for Arsenal were a bit lacking. But I do think that he can mature further, and we haven't seen the best of Ramsey, and we haven't for a while. But I don't think he would leave unless his head was turned, and I don't think he's looking to leave, to be honest.
He would have to. His game would have to come on. I mean, I could see him at Real Madrid because their game is basically all out attack, hope for the best. Barcelona and the way that they love possession, his game would have to come on a hell of a way, particularly in his decision making, to be in that Barcelona midfield. I mean, he wouldn't get in ahead of a Rakitic right now.
Right, shush. This has been nearly 2 hours. So, Mark, final words on this, and then we'll go to 5 for the predictions.
What was the question?
Oh, fuck knows.
I had to get my charger, so I missed all that. I presume we're still talking about selling Ramsey.
Yeah, would you sell any of Ramsey, Walcott, or Wox?
No, I mean, only. I think one of the guys said it. Only if that was the only way we were going to actually get the owner to spend some money. It was like you had to generate some funds to put towards it. Only under those circumstances. Otherwise, as Andrew said, we've got plenty of money to spend on players if we want. So no, I can't see it. And I think, I agree. I think it would be Ox and Theo before Ramsey. But Ramsey needs to start showing the form of a couple of years ago. He hasn't got anywhere near that, in my opinion. And the thought of Ramsey thinking he could play for Barcelona is absolutely fucking hilarious.
Well, there you go. I think that sums it up perfectly.
Get off the fence.
Yeah, Mr. Fife. We need to get a wiggle on, so we've got to do predictions, and we have to do a gentleman's nod.
Can we, just before we do, can we have, just, I know in the time of being bereft and quick, everyone just give a one-word answer about the one topic which the listeners have been raising. I know Victoria Scott brought it up. To selfie or not to selfie, yes or no?
Fuck no, you cunt.
Seconded.
Oh, Jesus. Did I say that out loud?
One word.
Absolutely. God, no. No.
You on about in the crowd?
Well, in the crowd, or basically there's been a big
I think
debate.
we're talking about the team that did their selfie, the team
topless,
selfie after the game last week.
I got that completely wrong.
I thought you meant just general people doing it during games.
In the aftermath of the game, the players took a selfie in the changing room, all very happy, tops off.
I don't care.
And basically this week, Lee Dixon's come out and said that would have never happened in his time. And
They didn't
Martin
have mobile
Keown,
phones with cameras in his time, did they?
Oh, that was the point, yeah. So him and Keown have both said they don't like that Arsenal take these selfies in the changing room. Loads of Arsenal fans have subsequently turned on Dixon and Keown and called them Luddites. Said, of course you didn't have cameras. The game's changed, and it's really struck up a bit of a debate between our fans. I just wanted a one-word answer: were Arsenal players right or wrong to take that selfie? That basically that Keown and Dixon think you should only take it if you have a trophy in your hand, and whereas the other fans disagree. What one word, Mark?
You can't answer that in one word.
I agree.
Were they right or wrong?
They're modern footballers. I couldn't give a shit what they do.
I
I agree with Mark.
Yeah, I agree. The modern world is... It's not my cup of tea. I mean, I haven't got the face for a camera, but it's not my cup of tea, and I don't really understand people that want to take photos of themselves. But when you're in a group and, the modern day world's Instagram, and unless you're Jolie and Lescott, I don't really see a problem with it.
But when you've won as much as Dixon and Keown, then maybe you can start telling people what to do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Victoria, for the question.
And wouldn't it be a lovely selfie if they do have the trophy in the season to make all the other selfies worth it?
Well,
I can say when I meet up with any of the ABW, and in 3 years I've not met a single one of them, there will be no... What's the word we're looking for?
Selfie?
That's it. See, I don't even know the word because I hate it that much. There will be no selfies. I probably won't even acknowledge their existence.
Standard.
There you go, listeners. Mark King, the voice of reason, 2016. Give it a fun kit.
The world is fucked.
All right, and then we need to rattle through predictions. So first, why don't we take your predictions for the whole game? Danny?
Right, the whole game. Hold on, I'm scrolling down to the right piece so I always forget to do these. I have got 3-0 to Arsenal, the Ox.
Kris?
3-1 the Arsenal. Walcott.
David?
3-0 Ramsey.
And Mark?
2-1 Walcott.
Brilliant. And I'm going to go 2-1, but Joel Campbell. And then back to you, Danny. What's your prediction for Barca?
I would say 9-0, but I need the point. I'm going to go 2-0 Suarez.
Kris?
2-2 Messi.
David?
1-1 Ozil.
Mark?
3-1 defeat Messi.
And I'm going to go for a 2-1 loss, and I'm going to go Neymar.
And listeners at home and in the tractor, thank you very much. I stole that from TalkSport.
And that concludes
There you go.
the predictions.
Yes.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for being on the show tonight, gents. That's what I'm bringing.
Okay.
Fuck's sake,
All
Danny,
right.
let the man
There we go.
talk.
We said it at the same time.
We just need to show some appreciation to our listeners for listening and putting up with our tripe. And is there anyone specifically who you guys want to shout out tonight? I'm going to start with you, Danny.
I just asked all the fools that follow me on the Twitter, and the first one to get back to me was Mark Tullett, who is at MarcTullett. He's 22, and then he's put some players' names, and I think he lives in the Emirates Stadium.
Brilliant.
So there you go.
How about you, Kris?
One shout out, very quick plug. It's my usual shout out, but I'm going to give it to Kelly. But I want to give her little blog a little tickle because she embraces nerdism. She loves University Challenge, and she writes a very good blog if you like that kind of thing. It's accidentalquizzer.blogspot.co.uk. So it's Kelly_Mayor.
Is that Kelly? Yeah, Canadian Kelly.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, Kelly. Kelly, my nerves were trembling before this podcast. And Kelly made them worse. So she commented that we must be scraping the bottom of the barrel to have hosting. So if you're listening, Kelly, you are a racialist, and I have your number marked.
I wondered where we were going with that.
I wonder where we're going with that.
Jesus. We like Kelly, really. She's a good friend of the pod.
Indeed.
How about yourself, David?
This week I want to go for a bunch of guys. It's not one person, but a bunch of guys who drink in the tolly before and after games, who are... I think they're absolutely mad. They're going to ride a bicycle from London to Paris when there's a perfectly serviceable train. There are ferries, there are aeroplanes, but no, they're going to jump on bicycles and ride to Paris. They are at Pello, P-E-L-O, Tony Adams on Twitter. They're aiming to raise £12,000 for Multiple Sclerosis Trust, and today they went through the £10,000 barrier. So absolutely fantastic effort by them, and good to see Gooners uniting for such a good cause.
Good men. And speaking of people who like to drink in the Tollington, how about you, Mark? Who's your shout out this week?
Mine goes out to Jono, and he is at Talking Out My Arse. That's talking without the G. Talking Out My Arse. He's a BSM member, drinks down the Eaglet. They've got a really nice new banner coming up for the cup game. Hopefully we'll see it on Saturday morning. But he's a good lad. I always pay attention to what he tweets because he knows what he's on about, and he goes the games, so he's got a right to have an opinion. Brilliant.
He's going to be on the 8:20 a.m. Train to Old Trafford away, I believe, on the 28th. Anyway, my shout out, as I've alluded to right at the very beginning of this pod, is to our very own Posh and Becks. It's for Gimli and Kate. I know Gimli's in some pain today, having to part way with his pups, and it can't be a nice feeling having to say goodbye to your surrogate children after putting up with them for so long.
After you breastfed them,
yeah, personally. But So shout outs to you two guys, and I hope you're feeling better at the end of this pod. Albeit we've probably made you lose the will to live after 2.5 hours of inane rambling.
You've done an excellent job, Mr. Five.
you certainly have.
Thank you for being
Andrew.
so well behaved, gentlemen.
If Gimli dies, suddenly we know who did it.
Jesus.
Just Dickie's job.
And that brings me on just to thank you, the listener, for being in tune with us tonight. Thank you, and keep it Arsenal.
No, cheeky monkeys.
Arse!
Hello!
Is there a website where I can just do the top fours results? Because I've got one that does the whole
You just
league.
got to go do the Arsenal ones. Then how many points do you think we're going to get from the rest of the season?
I thought, Five, you wanted to know the whole top four.
Yeah. What do you think the top four will be? What their points will be?
Yeah.
What,
that's
all
the whole-
four?
Yeah.
Fucking
So it's-
hell.
it's
I
a-
understood the instruction. I've done it. I'm a
Yeah.
good two
Well,
shoes.
you're a pro, David. That's why.
You should just put your
How did you
finger
do
in
it,
the air
Dave?
if you want to make it up now.
Dave, did you do it on a predictor on a website, or did you just do it
No,
manually?
that Sockaway thing you gave me,
That's what I'm using now.
they've got the fixtures week by week, so I just went from one week to the next and did the 4 of them.
Hold on. So I've
Actually
got...
took about 10 minutes.
I've got a full Premier League one that you can predict all the Premier League results every week, but that's
So
going
I've
to take
got
forever.
us finishing top. Spurs,
Fuck it, I'll
Leicester,
do that.
Southampton.
I'll do a full table for you just to be a pain.
No one's
I
good.
couldn't even put Southampton in the equation.
I've got them finishing fourth. All down to one man.
Bloody hell.
Right, Spurs. Geez, they've got a lot of games. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 19, 20,
Chris.
Yeah.
21,
1 second.
24. There you go. I've got Spurs' points for the season. 24.
Something in the group. If you want to, you can just work off that. It might be easier if it's gonna. Oh, fuck. Yeah.
I'm halfway through it already, but
All right.
I'll be about 5 minutes.
I
But
think we're all going to disagree on who's. You've done all yours, Mark. Is Mark still there?
Mark.
He's on mute.
So that'd be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15.
I'm actually predicting the whole
16,
league here. It's quite fun.
15, 19,
West Ham have got to play Spurs at home. That's a
22.
defeat for the Spuds.
25,
I'm losing the will to live here.
26,
There he is.
27,
Fuck yeah,
29,
now.
30.
Andrew, I thought you asked everyone to get this done.
You did, but I forgot because I'm busy doing all the other stuff.
I've
So-
been out.
Southampton. So there he is. I've only got Southampton to go and I'm done. then I'm going to realise I've actually worked out that Arsenal aren't going to win the league, and then I'll be crying. That's going to be no good.
Don't worry, I got them winning it.
Oh, that's good then.
So have I.
Dave.
I'll have
Hey?
Yeah,
Good
I've
man.
got winning it by 2 points from Leicester and Spurs.
Ah,
Really? I've got us winning it by 1.
Ooh.
I got 2 points from Spurs as well.
Yeah.
We're third at the moment. Shit, this is not good. Sure, it'll turn around.
In fact, I don't have us and Spurs losing another game.
Ouch.
No, I don't. I did either.
Jinxed it.
I got Spurs losing at West Ham.
Oh dear, I just predicted
I've got
Leicester to
Spurs
win the
losing to West
title.
Ham as well.
How the hell have I predicted Leicester to win the title? That's not good.
Right.
Chelsea.
Well, it makes a good soundbite if you've done that anyway. Something to stick to beat you with.
That's the point. I'm just going into mute so I don't end up in the extra half hour today.
I've got Leicester winning the league by 5 points.
Have you?
I've got us second. Oh, yeah, us second. Spurs third. I don't know about Southampton fourth.
At the end of the season, you can tell us you were right.
Well, hopefully not. Maybe Man City are gonna, but you can't predict Man City because they're so unpredictable. Who would have thought they'd lost to Leicester and Spurs back to back? And then Leicester have only got 13 league games to go, and that's it. Their season's done. Everyone else has got a million competitions. I'm not going to. No, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go and change it to what I hope it will be. I've gone through the results and the games and gone right. Leicester are going to win, draw. Leicester are going to draw their last 3 games of the season.
They've only got 12 games, though, mate, not 13. So I don't know if you've.
No, I haven't added up the numbers. I'm just guessing that it's about 12 or 13.
Oh, okay.
I've got them drawing a lot of games.
The last 3.
Me too.
Oh, come on. Stop being a knob.
I've got them getting a point with Man U, beating Everton, but then losing to Chelsea.
I was going to recheck Arsenal's ones, make sure I haven't got this wrong. So I'm going to get 1, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10,
Man
11,
U
12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26.
You got to go to Scunford Ditch as well. Spurs.
Man U lost 2-1.
Well, they're playing tonight, or they have played.
Tonight, yeah.
There's a lot of early games.
De Gea's injured.
Oh, that is a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, real shame. Wow.
Right, now then, I've got all the questions done, I've got all the results done, I've got the Loan Watch done, I've got the under-18s, I've got my prediction and the questions, so I'm all ready to go.
I am doing the final week now, and I'll tell you where my bits come out, so to speak.
Soccer Who Scored is being
I'll go to Stamford Bridge as well. Interesting.
They lost a million.
And they got charged £70 for the privilege as well.
71.
Which is pretty funny, to be fair.
Oh, Spurs have pulled off a draw against Fiorentina. Come on, Spurs. As many more games they play, the better it is for us. Oh, they had warming goal. They weren't even trying.
So Loris is out for 2 weeks, isn't he?
Oh, I see. Kane only got the last few minutes.
Yeah,
Well,
he was
that's
on the
great
bench.
striker.
Ericsson was on the bench, I think.
Oh,
Dyer.
You seen the Dele Alli clip of him hoofing a geezer on the floor?
Yeah,
No,
I put it in the
Oh,
chat
yeah.
box, the link to it.
Man United lost.
Bernardeschi got
There
me
again,
off.
that's probably what they want, isn't it?
Where's the chat box?
Oh, McNair. No, they've played a load of kids. McNair, Love,
Right,
Danny
here we
Blind. Danny Blind, as Andrew likes to say.
go. Fucking
The other
hell, I've
Andrew.
got us winning it by 6 points.
No, that means
You're more deluded than I thought you were.
that's it.
You're just more miserable. I got Spurs finishing 15 points behind us.
Wow.
That's quite.
Fucking hell.
That's quite. Actually, no. Sorry.
Right, someone
11.
waving their mobile phone near their device because every now and then I hear the
11
that.
points behind us. Sorry,
Whatever that
Mark.
was, stop it. Yeah, no, it's Mark. He's doing it on purpose because he's like that. Right, so yes,
That is not me.
well, it's somebody with
It's
their
not me.
mobile phone. Pirate.
It's not me. My phone's miles away.
Well, whoever's on Wi-Fi, their phone is disrupting their signal.
You know me, Daniel. I don't do Wi-Fi.
Only because you don't understand it.